Yeah. This is your boy, Tone DeShields II. You guys are locked in on a very, very, very dope dose of Chalk It Up Sports, where no matter if we win or if we lose, we just got to charge it to the game. I'm always grateful to be here, always grateful for another day around this planet. Can't take it for granted, you guys. Make sure you smash that like button. Make sure you guys are subscribed to the show, especially if you're new, and only subscribe if you like what you hear, if you like what you see, if you like the energy, if you like the overall ambiance of what we're cultivating here at Chalk It Up Sports. Make sure you guys are on the right side of history. Okay? Because most of these mass media outlets, I'm talking about the Fox Sports and the ESPNs of the world, right? They seem to have this whole situation with the Philadelphia Eagles messed up. They truly believe that the Philadelphia Eagles are essentially the same team as they were last year, right? I mean, let's not forget that team did start 10-1, correct? Obviously, they had to collapse. Things weren't really going up to par. We had a hard time figuring out some of the issues. And when a team collapses like that, like Jason Kelce said, when a team collapses like that, it's never just one problem. And every team, there's plenty of teams that have gone through their fair share of internal issues, and yet they've still figured it out. So I'm trying to figure out why the rules changed for the Philadelphia Eagles. But then again, we do understand that we move the needle. So with all that negative talk, all that negative fodder that they're putting out in the atmosphere, take it with a grain of salt and look at it from this perspective. They need us. They need us to be the way we are. Quite frankly, network television, cable television, isn't doing as well as they want us to believe. Everybody's not tuning into the First Takes of the world anymore, or the Undisputed, right? That show's about to be canceled. Skip Bayless is off of television. People aren't sitting on their couches watching television like they used to anymore. People are on their phones. And look, you can still watch some of those shows on your phone as well, right? You know, these ESPNs and Fox Sports, they're trying to get into the YouTube space, right? ESPN, they're giving every personality that they can their own podcast or their own show. They're trying to compete with us. But here's the difference, right? They have all those resources, all those big budgets behind what they're doing. And the fact of the matter is, you guys, it just ain't us. It just ain't what the content creators are putting out there. They're trying to compete. But when you got guys like Philly 500 doing the numbers he's doing, you got guys like Laura Brunson and Simone Stanley doing the numbers they're doing, Joey Shakes, Philly Mike from the Philly Talk podcast, Bird Gang 31. I can go on and on. I mean, Pro Fan Talk covering the WNBA, the Philadelphia Eagles, all of sports. I mean, you have so much variety of people doing their thing in this space. I'm trying to figure out where the competition is. But, you know, I kind of got too ahead of myself. I appreciate you guys for being here. Please make sure you smash that like button. Make sure you guys are subscribed to the show. It means a lot to me. It goes a long way with helping the show grow and be the best possible product that it can be. Super grateful to you guys that have been purchasing the merchandise. The Apex Predator shirts for sale right now on the Chalk It Up Sports merch shop. The links are available below, and the links are also posted in the live stream. So you guys know what to do. Go check that out. Go bless yourself before the Eagle season starts. It takes about 2 weeks to get to you. So make sure you guys bless yourself. A lot of people have already done so already. And on top of that, you know, we do giveaways here. We're going to be doing a giveaway tomorrow. All right? We're going to be doing a giveaway tomorrow. My man Bold Brew, a.k.a. Thomas, received his gift yesterday, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. So, Bold Brew, when you get the opportunity, I don't know if you're in here right now, make sure you send me a photo of your gift that you received from Chalk It Up Sports, right? Jameer Adams, Mark Johnson, Keisha White, they were our past giveaway winners. They've sent me photos as well. You guys have seen those plenty of times. Shout out to those people as well. I appreciate all of you guys being here. We're growing this thing, and we're growing it fast. So I really do appreciate you guys for locking in the way you have. You guys all saw that dope show yesterday with Simone Stanley, LB, and myself, right? The link up, so to speak, the new something new that we're trying to cultivate, something new that we're trying to build. And I think I think we're the three-headed monster when it comes to that thing, man. I really think we all bring something unique, something special to the table. Simone Stanley being a credentialed reporter. She's interviewed people like Dawn Staley, Caitlin Clark, Isaiah Rogers, Quinyon Mitchell. You feel what I'm saying? Like, her resume speaks for itself. She's done play-by-play for college basketball. She's covered the HBCU scene in terms of athletics and the SWAC, right? Covering baseball. You know, she's done assignments for ESPN. She's covered the HBCU baseball classic. I mean, she's been all over the place, right? Laura Brunson, the established Philadelphia Eagles content creator that started his YouTube channel the season right before the Philadelphia Eagles won the Super Bowl. As a matter of fact, if I'm not mistaken, he started it in 2017. That man had foresight. That man started his podcast in 2017 before we knew what the Philadelphia Eagles were, before we knew we were Super Bowl champions. You feel what I'm saying? That man has the pulse of the people. That man has connections beyond just this YouTube space. And then myself, bringing not just charisma, passion, and energy, but also bringing perspective, research, my producing skills. You feel what I'm saying? Being able to create show flow and structure and just being able to be that point guard and pivot, right? We bring something special all together. We when we come together, it's like Voltron. We're like Transformers, but we're not in disguise, baby. We're right here in front of you. And the link up is here to stay. The link up is growing. So I can't wait until next week's show. Make sure you guys tune in next Wednesday for that show. Going to be super, super, super dope, man. So I really do appreciate you guys. Again, smash that like button. We got some things to talk about. I do have a special guest coming on later on. I have a special guest coming on at 1 p.m. Eastern, which is 12 p.m. Central, 11 a.m. Mountain Time, and 10 a.m. Pacific Time. And I think in Hawaii, that may be 8 a.m. Alohi, correct me if I'm wrong. So, again, a lot of things to get into. You saw the thumbnail. You guys saw the thumbnail, and you guys know what type of time I'm on today. And yes, I did see Matthew Judon did get traded to the Atlanta Falcons, but I'm trying to understand why these teams keep trading for these players that they don't have contracts structured for. The Jets traded for Hassan Reddick, didn't have a contract in place. They made an offer, but he declined it, and you still traded for him. The Atlanta Falcons, I believe they made him an offer, Matthew Judon. I think he declined it. Or they don't have a structure in place, yet they still traded for him. I'm trying to understand why these teams keep trading for players and you don't have a contract structured or you don't have a contract in place. What is going on? What is going on? But that's a separate conversation, a separate topic for another day. Your Philadelphia Eagles, their defense is trending in the right direction. Don't let anybody tell you different. You see, they want to get in your head. These mass media outlets want you to believe that the Philadelphia Eagles really, really have internal issues and that they're incapable of bouncing back. They want to put Jalen Hurts on the hot seat all of a sudden. They would have put, they want to say Nick Sirianni is fighting for his job, and maybe rightfully so, right? But you bring in Kellen Moore, you bring in Vic Fangio to cultivate and nurture this defense, and we're seeing great things so far. We're seeing players develop right in front of our eyes. We're seeing our draft picks starting to make plays, right? This defensive draft class is so far giving us something to talk about, giving us something to be excited about. Quinyon Mitchell, he's been damn near the perfect rookie. He's been saying all the right things. He's been asking plenty of questions, leaning on his veterans. He's leaned into the fan base. Calm, cool, collected, doesn't say much, but turns into a humble beast on that football field. Confident, walks with a swagger. Making plays in the preseason game and the joint practices and training camp. Quinyon Mitchell has been as advertised. Now, when the regular season comes and the bullets start flying, I expect him to carry that over. That's what I expect. And he's going to be going up against first string wide receivers. And the Philadelphia Eagles have been using him in the slot as of right now. because they're so deep at cornerback, and they want to get the most talent on the football field at a given time. They want to create the best combination of talent in that DB room on the football field, right? So if that means moving Quinyon Mitchell to the slot so you can get Kelee Ringo on the field, then maybe that is something you have to do, right? And then Cooper DeJean comes back. He's healthy now, or close to it, right? Still in limited action. I doubt he plays tonight. Your Philadelphia Eagles face off against the New England Patriots tonight. I doubt Cooper DeJean plays tonight. But regardless, you have a talented guy in him, athletic, versatile. Another guy keeps his head down, doesn't say much, but asks a ton of questions. A film junkie. Jeremiah Trotter Jr., a film junkie. Instincts on a million. First game, first opportunity for NFL action. He laying the wood. He's smacking guys and special teams. He's sacking the quarterback. He's getting tackles for loss. Running sideline to sideline. Causing interceptions in the joint practice with the Patriots. Right? Jalen Hunt, we saw him in that preseason game, smooth backpedaling, smooth in coverage. Looks natural. Those former DB skills are coming to the light. Remember, former DB turned edge rusher, put on about 30 to 40 pounds of muscle. Athletic, looks the part. Ahead of schedule. I mentioned Kelee Ringo. Technique taken up a notch. Running stride for stride with the receiver. Causing pass deflections, causing incompletions. Staying in the hip pocket of the receiver. You can't shake him. You still got Isaiah Rodgers in the building. A guy that has had a solid offseason, a solid training camp. I don't have anything bad to say about him. You know? Obviously, a lot of things still have to take shape. We're still curious to know how good Nolan Smith can be. We're still curious to know will Bryce Huff be able to live up to the expectations that were set. Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter, that Milton Williams, Moro Ojomo. That interior is set. Linebacker competition at its pinnacle. The cream is starting to rise to the top. Nakobe Dean is actually starting to show some flashes, believe it or not. Right? You got CJ GJ in the backfield. So you mean to tell me this Philadelphia Eagles defense can't compete in the playoffs, can't compete in the Super Bowl? I think not. I think what we're going to see with this defense here, I think this Philadelphia Eagles defense is going to be obviously a work in progress. It's going to be a forever evolving thing. It's going to be fluid. It's going to be in perpetual motion. I don't care how big the steps are, small, medium, or large. I want steps forward. I want steps in a positive direction. You know, we've seen teams evolve and grow and become more cohesive as the seasons go, right? That's what happens, right? When you start putting in those real life reps, when you start putting in those live action situations throughout the regular season, you start to see offenses and defenses start to establish an identity and start to establish what they want to accomplish and how they want to attack the opposition, right? And I think this Philadelphia Eagles defense, although it's very young, they're very athletic, very talented. They have great instincts. They play with the ferocity. They play with a certain physicality that's been missing. These young guys are bringing something. These young guys are bringing something, and I refuse to settle down, senor. I refuse to settle down. You want to know why? Because I see something, and I feel something, and I've been locked in on this team. We all have, but I've been studying this stuff, researching this stuff, just constantly just watching things and reading and all this. And I'm looking at the way these guys are moving, the way they're talking, the way they're conducting themselves, the way they're making plays when they have the opportunity to. I will not settle down. It's so annoying when you have people trying to make you settle down. When we're in a situation that can be fruitful. This isn't like last year when we were relying on old guys. When we were relying on an inexperienced DC. This is not last year. Let it go. Let it go. I refuse to allow anybody, Eagle fan or opposition alike, I refuse to let anybody make me believe this Philadelphia Eagles defense cannot be playoff caliber when it's time. I refuse. You see, a lot of people like to pretend like they know what was. Let's focus on what is. Let's focus on what is. And this Philadelphia Eagles defense is more talented, in my humble opinion, than they were last year. They're more talented. They're deeper. They're deeper than they were last year. Hey, listen. Y'all can pussyfoot all y'all want. Y'all can have 1 foot in, 1 foot out all you want. I'm all in. I'm locked and loaded. I'm all in. Sorry. I'm all in. If you ain't all in, pack your bags. Pack them. I don't want to see you on the front line. Pack them. I don't want to see you. I don't want to hear from you. Sorry. I'm not going to sit here and curve or pull back the electricity that's bubbling right now. Because here's what people keep forgetting. This defense in week 1 is not going to be the defense you see in week 15, 16, 17, 18. A team that it reminds me of is the Kansas City Chiefs, that defense, right? That Kansas City Chiefs defense was not what it was, or not, they were not what we know it to be today. They had young guys playing. They took chances. They drafted well. They were seeing great things from their guys in training camp and preseason, and they saw guys stacking the days, stacking the reps, and they had someone with experience calling the plays, someone with experience developing these guys. They had Spags, and we have Vic Fangio, 2 of the most respected defensive minds in the league. I refuse to settle down. Now, does my excitement come without any reasonable level of concern? Hell no. Hell no. That's not realistic. Do I acknowledge that there are a form of unknowns on that defensive line? Absolutely. What will Nolan Smith be? What will Bryce Huff give us? Can Josh Sweat bounce back? Will Jordan Davis finally be in shape? Will Jalen Carter be able to build off of that rookie season? Oh, yeah. The Eagles have questions. Best believe the Eagles have questions. But guess what? It's the National Football League. Everybody got fucking questions. Pardon my French. No team is a guarantee. Every team comes with their fair share of concerns. So you think I'm going to act crazy over mine? You think I'm going to get shy and get skittish over my concerns when every other team got their own form of concerns? Pittsburgh, what will the quarterback position look like? The Kansas City Chiefs, what will that defense look like without L'Jarius Sneed? The Cowboys, will they be able to re-sign CD? Will they get over their drama with their starting quarterback? The 49ers, will Brandon Ayuk sign or not? Will Brock Purdy be able to build off of that season? If they lose Ayuk, will Brock Purdy still be the guy? The Rams, what will that defense look like without Aaron Donald? Can we trust it? Matthew Stafford, his health, will he be okay? Joe Burrow, will he be able to play a full season? Josh Allen, will he finally be able to cure the turnover bug? What will he look like without Stephon Diggs? The Vikings, you lost J.J. McCarthy. What will that offense look like without a quarterback? I can go on and on. The Lions, can they do it again? Or were they fool's gold? Green Bay, can Jordan Love live up to the contract? He only gave you 9 legit games of football, quality football. They made him the highest paid quarterback in the league. Will Jordan Love be able to live up to expectations? Every team has questions. So why the hell would I get nervous about mine? I'm sorry. I don't believe you. I'm sorry if I'm not as nervous as you. The Commanders. What will their rookie quarterback look like? The Chicago Bears. Will Caleb Williams be the golden boy? And stop telling me Green Bay is legit. Stop it. That man, Jordan Love, gave you 9 games of quality football. Jalen Hurts is giving you 3 seasons. Stop playing with me. 3 seasons of back-to-back playoff appearances, a Super Bowl appearance, All-Pro, Pro Bowler. Stop comparing Jordan Love to Jalen Hurts. That he's not there yet. Green Bay, they were an exciting story. They gave San Fran a run for their money. They smacked the Cowboys, but who doesn't? Who doesn't smack the Cowboys in the playoffs? What did the Green Bay Packers do that anybody else haven't done to the Cowboys in the playoffs? So all I'm trying to say is every team comes with their fair share of concerns. Their fair share. Stop getting soft about ours. Every team got them. Every Super Bowl contender got them. Why y'all tripping? Why let somebody steal your joy? Make it make sense to me. I don't get it. I don't get the perspective. Every team got to prove it. Every team. Stop it. But I get it. It's easier to be halfway in than it is to be all in. I get that. Some people like to live on the fence. It's safer for some people that way because they don't have to reap the repercussions. You feel what I'm saying? Some people like to live on the fence. It's safe there. They can play both sides. They can party with us when they want to, but then they can dip off and give you the old Irish goodbye. I'm sorry. I don't live that way. That's not my stilo. That's not my bag. All I know is this Philadelphia Eagles defense has an opportunity to be playoff level. What does that mean? And my guest will be here in about 5 to 6 minutes. So I'm going to get this off here. When I say playoff level defense, what does that mean? What does that mean? Let me put it in perspective. 14 teams make the playoffs. 14 teams make the playoffs, correct? 7 from each conference. So you mean to tell me the Philadelphia Eagles are incapable of having a top 14 defense? We've seen teams go from being the worst in something to being the best in something in a matter of a season. We've seen teams go from being the best in something to being the absolute worst in something the following season. The NFL is a pendulum. It swings. And now the Philadelphia Eagles are building a true foundation of talent on defense finally. For the past several seasons, we kept trying to go through the free agent pool to try to build a defense. Now they're actually drafting players. Now they're actually developing talent that's going to be here for the long term, and you have flexibility with the rookie deals. The future is nigh. The future is Quinyon Mitchell, Kelee Ringo on the outside with Cooper DeJean floating in the middle as that hybrid guy. That's the future of the DB room here. I think we're so far in good hands. I like what I've seen from both players, Kelee Ringo and Quinyon Mitchell. It's the little things. It's the little things with those gentlemen that I like. So I'm sorry if I'm not sharing the sentiment of being skittish. Scared money don't make no money. Don't y'all know that? Scared money don't make no money. If I ever go broke, I'ma take your money. Shout out to Meek, man. So y'all can act scared all you want. to be a top 14 defense means you're playoff level, you're playoff caliber. And when you actually look at those numbers and how defenses are ranked, most of the time, the 10th ranked defense is only about a couple metrics off from being just a top 20 defense. Most of those numbers that you rate defenses off of, there's only like a few yards or a few points that separate a top 10 defense from a top 15, or it's really not that complex when you really dig deep into the numbers. It's really not. It's really not. So I'm relatively optimistic because I trust the head coach. I trust the defensive coordinator to get these guys ready. And I think there's a different edge right now. I think there's a different edge right now on this team. I really, really do. When is the last time we seen a linebacker coming out of college that the Philadelphia Eagles brought in and that's instantly making plays, instantly making you notice him? Every time Jeremiah Trotter Jr. has touched the football field, he's made you feel him. He's giving you something to remember. But everybody, again, I'm not here to change your mind. I'm not here to change your mind at all. The people that's rocking, I see on the front lines. Those of y'all that's on the fence, pack it in. Pack it in. If you're on the fence, pack it in. We can't afford to have people who scared to pull their gun out. We can't have people on the front lines that's scared to take out the target. We can't. We cannot afford to have people who scared to pull the trigger. I'm optimistic about this defense. I believe we've seen a handful of flashes from the right players. Like I said, Kelee Ringo. I feel like Kelee Ringo's having a great training camp. He had a spectacular preseason game. I think Quinyon Mitchell trending in the right direction. Love what I saw from him. I love what I'm hearing as well. I also like what I'm seeing from Jeremiah Trotter. I like it. I think, and then again, the Vic Fangio element is going to make this team that much better. This isn't just a Vic Fangio style defense. We have the architect. We have the originator. And I really can't wait. To speak to this gentleman that I'm about to have on, because he's someone that, in my opinion, truly understands the game in a nuanced way. This man has his own YouTube channel covering the Philadelphia Eagles. He does great work. Like I said, the way he sees the game, the way he dissects the game, I tend to watch a lot of his content when I need to be schooled on something, or just when I need that X and O's energy. I consider him to be an X and O's guru. That's just me. He does tremendous work breaking down your Philadelphia Eagles. He has a YouTube channel called Gate City Sports Talk. You guys know who it is. The man, the myth, the soon-to-be legend. Got to give credit where credit is due. None other than Gate City. Y'all know him as Steve Heitter. Steve, how you feeling, sir?
Man, I'm doing well. How about you, Tone?
I'm doing great, man. I can't complain not one bit. It's been a while, my friend. It's been a while. Let me know how are you feeling? How are things? How's the family?
Doing well, man. You know, we got the little one, so it's been some sleepless nights, sir. It's been some sleepless nights.
Congratulations. Congratulations, man. That is awesome.
Appreciate it.
First one?
Yeah. Hey, look, I mean, the good news is because I don't get to sleep, I just stay up watching film.
Well, let's get right into it, right? Because you're someone that, again, like I mentioned, you're someone that really, really studies the film, really understands the game in a nuanced way. You're very objective, right? You call it how you see it. And like you always say, the tape doesn't lie. So I want to get your perspective on this, right? the Philadelphia Eagles, they invested a lot in his team, offensively and defensively. They spent a lot of money on offense, right? They re-upped a lot of people, and they spent a ton of draft capital on defense, especially in the DB room. Quinyon, Mitchell, Cooper, DeJean. They did bring in an edge rusher, and Jalen Hunt, who formerly was a DB, now an edge rusher. Then you bring in Jeremiah Trotter, the legacy piece, right? I want to get your perspective on that first preseason game, right? What were some of your key takeaways and standouts from that Eagles preseason game against the Baltimore Ravens?
I want to start off by saying this I see a lot of names in the chat that I recognize here, man. What's up, everybody? How y'all doing, man? So let me just kind of preface this by saying it's preseason, and when you're dealing with starters, you got to be a little skeptical of judging effort. Sometimes they may be just going through the reps there. They're not really putting forth game time effort. So I'm a little scared to assess what I'm about to assess because I don't know that it has long-standing impact in terms of like what we'll see in the regular season.
Well, let's not talk starters then, right? Let's talk the second and third string guys, the depth pieces, right? The guys that, the younger players, like the Jeremiah Trotters, the Kelee Ringos. Let's focus on those guys because I think those guys are going to be the foundation of this defense.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I thought what I saw, like from the positive, is there's a lot of young guys on this team that are energetic. They're bringing a lot, man. I got to be honest with you. One name that, man, from everything I've heard from this young man in terms of what he's doing inside of practices, including joint practice this week, to the preseason game, Moro Jamo it's starting to pay dividends with that 7th round pick from 23, man. Like, he's starting to look like he might be an actual decent depth player. Like, this guy might actually develop into something worthwhile having. I've heard that, the mumblings are that Milton Williams is having a pretty decent camp, but I just haven't heard that fizzle, that pop stuff yet. We haven't heard like the big, huge plays from Milton Williams yet in terms of getting the pressure there. But I heard that like he's getting a lot of, let's just, pause for a second. Penetration.
Gotcha.
through the line. I mean, he's definitely causing some some rush situations that maybe if you weren't redshirting the quarterback, he's not out there to where you can't touch him. Perhaps that there could have been a result on the play. It's just some of those things are really hard to judge from the defensive line perspective because even the run game, like you're not exactly taking the running back to the ground. There were some times even on the, during the open practice for the fans to where I thought some of the video footage that was coming in, I'm like, yeah, man, if they were tackling to the ground, I'm not too sure some of these runs would have been as effective as they look. Right. If I'm going to be honest about that situation there. But we did see, speaking of the backups, man, we saw in that preseason game, our second and third line was getting push. That offensive line was moving folks off the ball. Trevor Keegan, that dude looks like he might be something, Tone. He's looking like a ball player, man. I think they got that pick right.
I'm a big fan of his. Big fan. Yeah. I even mentioned how he could push because I know in Michigan he was a right guard, correct?
Yes. Well, no, he was a left guard. He's been a left guard.
Oh, he's been a left guard.
Okay, he had the shoulder stuff at Michigan, which apparently I'm not a medical doctor. I'm not gonna play that role, Tone, but a lot of teams kind of backed off of him because of that. But the Eagles were like, look, here we're sitting here. I think we were taking 5th, 6th round, and this guy's still on the board. I mean, at a certain point, we just got to take a chance that maybe, he goes, you look at Landon Dickerson. Landon Dickerson had like 4 surgeries in 5 years. Mm-hmm. He's been relatively, he's missed some games here and there, some snaps here and there, but he's been relatively healthy for the Eagles since he got in there. So right. I think they just gambled on the fact that it's definitely an injury risk, but the talent level is undeniable. This guy he's a mauler in the run game. He's an absolute mauler in the run game. I thought the young man playing right tackle, Darian Kennard, I keep hearing a lot about him. Yeah. I thought he was a little up and down in the preseason game, if I'm going to be honest with you. I thought there were some times where Ian looked the greatest to me, and I thought there were some other times where he clearly won the reps. But I think he's a young man that, got bounced from the Chiefs. This guy is a former draft pick that I think he has an outside shot at making the roster. I wouldn't lock him in per se, Tone, but I do think there's an outside shot of him making the roster. And I think we're just kind of seeing that push happen.
As far as you said the ups and downs of Darian Kennard, right? Because just from our perspective, and again, you view the game a little bit more intricately because you have that experience, right? When you saw Darian Kennard having those ups and downs, was he stronger in the run versus the pass, or where do you believe his specialty was more so shown? Was it the run or the pass protection, going forward or going backwards?
I thought it more so going backwards with him. It was more so in the pass pro sets. And I don't think I think might have been some of the early game jitters. You're kind of falling into that situation. I don't know how much experience he has playing on the right side of the line, to be honest. You know, we've heard, Andre Dillard and those guys speak before about like what it's like if you primarily play the left and now you're asked to play in space on the right. You know, how much of that we buy into. Dillard might have been drumming that up a little bit, but I definitely saw some issues there early on in the game with some of those, sets there. With that said, he had an overall really good game. I think he's a guy that you just kind of look at it in an unbiased way. He's making a push. Like, they clearly think pretty highly of him. I think he played every snap, didn't he?
Yeah. It was interesting because the rumor is that they're trying to hide Aneem Dankwa. That's why they played Darian Kennard all day. But I do agree with you, right? That Eagles offensive line, they're very deep. They're very deep on the offensive line. And even taking it a step further, just sticking to the offensive side of the ball, because that's where we are right now. And then we'll eventually talk defense a little more deeply.
And that's the other thing is trying to judge it, like Brett Toth. He's another dude. I look, from my assessment, okay player. I mean, I think if you're 16 to 20 teams in the league could use a Brett Toth on their team. This guy could play pretty much all 5 alignments. I don't know that I feel like he's spectacular, Tone. I don't necessarily see everything that they're seeing in Brett Toth, but I don't know if that's a matter of the fact that they feel unsettled at center.
Speaking of center, Dylan McMahon, it seemed like he had an all right night as well. And then I believe Dylan McMahon was out of what? Is it Utah or Nebraska?
NC State.
NC State. Yeah. I get the
He's
NC State is just
Simone,
you
Simone
love it.
Myself.
Yes, it's NC State. That's your squad, right? That's your squad.
Yeah.
So give me your perspective on Dylan McMahon, because when they drafted him, he's a guy that's considered undersized, but he plays the position very, very, very strategically, so to speak.
Yeah, he's athletic. He's a super athletic center, good movement skills, dude that can get out in space and definitely play. Same worries you had with Jason Kelce, you will have with this young man, which is if you're locked up one-on-one with a nose tackle with some size and some strength, you're going to have flawless technique. You're going to need those 10 plus years of NFL experience that Kelce possessed to be able to win those battles, which I don't think Dylan McMahon is to that point yet. So you're going to always want to have some size beside him, which, uniquely the Eagles do have. Mekhi Becton is like a freaking giant to one side. And then you got the other dude, you got, Mr. Overalls on the left side. You know what I mean? Like, they got some side at the guard. So they could definitely protect their centers here in Philadelphia. Even Tyler Steen, looks like the guy who's probably losing momentum in that fight. Looks like he's going to be the 6th man now off the bench, kind of the main guy up off the bench for a guard or a tackle situation. Even Tyler Steen, he's not a small guy. He's like 6'5", 6'6" himself, like 320. So, I mean, the Eagles definitely got some size at the guard position. The young man that came over from the Falcons, his name slipping my mind right now. Matt Hennessy. Matt Hennessy. He's the one who got rocked in the game, man. He was sitting down on his keister. It was not a good look. And I'm kind of disappointed because I thought Hennessy was going to be a lot better. I thought that was going to be a solid backup.
Yeah, because he's the one, out of all their offseason additions at the offensive line, he came in with the most experience playing guard and center.
Yeah. I mean, he's a guy you looked at it. I know that there were some pretty serious injuries with him, but I mean, you could say the same thing about a lot of dudes on this team, right? Landon Dickerson, we talked about him earlier. He had a lot of serious injuries coming out of college. We take a look and we see basically the young man, Trevor Keegan, he's got an injury history with them shoulders. So I was like, I get ACLs are a little different. It's more in the Landon Dickerson style of the injuries that was going on, but he just hasn't been it's crazy because I listen to other people talk, Tone, and they say he hasn't been bad in practice or anything. He just hasn't been spectacular. You can't really differentiate him from the rest of the pack, I guess, is basically what they're saying, which for a veteran guy, probably not the best thing is if you're not standing out over these young guys.
Right.
At
the very least, your technique and your experience should show. And and they're never saying that. Wow.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And I mean, they ran inside zone for a while there to where, they were just absolutely, the Ravens are a physical team and they were pushing the Ravens 3 or 4 yards down the field.
And they're deep. The Ravens are deep.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I was doing the live stream. That's why I kept saying, I said, there's not a lot to report on this, guys, in terms of doing play-by-play. But the one thing I'll tell you right now is inside zone, they can run this all day.
Wow.
It's there. They're going to have to bring up 9 in the box to stop this. It's very obvious that the Eagles are just going to have the advantage, even if it's +1, because you have, not that Jalen Hurts is in the game, but because you have that built-in kind of RPO aspect to the offense. It's it immediately puts you even. And we're so talented there that, you know what I mean? Like it kills them. Now, you know, me personally, if I'm seeing Kenny Pickett and I'm seeing, you know, the big guy out there, McKee, I'm probably not going to give them a +1 advantage. I'll live with a 2-yard run from those guys.
Right.
You know what I mean? But you could definitely see that like it was catching, like they were off kilter with this stuff.
Yeah. They kept the defense off balance. And it's funny, the 2 drives that the Eagles scored touchdowns on in that particular game came on the drives where they really leaned into the run game.
Yeah.
Because it seemed like there were moments where they got away from it. But I don't know if that was by design. Maybe they were just trying to see what the quarterbacks can do in those situations. But
crazy design stuff in there. There was at one point, there was a throw to the outside. It was right-hand side of the screen. I don't remember if it was field or boundary. But, I mean, you could see them. It was probably thrown towards the field side. You could see them pull from the left side of the line to make it look like it's power, right? Making everything looks like a run play. So it's clearly RPO setup where it makes it look like they're running power. And then you see, I think it was Pickett was in the game at that time, pulls the ball back up and they throw outside. I don't think it may have been completed, but it was a short pass. It may have been one of the pass breakups that happened as well. But it was like, you know, schematically from the design of the play, it's like, yeah, I mean, they're really kind of leaning into the run game a little bit here to kind of like really throw them off guard, especially for a preseason game. Most of it was really vanilla, but you know, you had the really nice design play out there to the kid from Clemson, the running back, Shipley.
Will Shipley, yes. Big fan of him.
Really well-designed play there. That was really well-designed. And, like, you could see right away the Eagles are going to present some challenges for teams in the red zone because you've got Johnny Wilson, who's like 6'6", 6'7". You got Grant Calcaterra's got size on him. You got Dallas Goedert's got size on him. You know, you just look down the line of what they can do from, like, multiple personnel packages from 2 tight end to 3 wide receiver sets using Johnny Wilson's size and A.J. Brown being in the game. You know what I mean? To, like, Devontae Smith, although he's not a bruiser, he's a guy that can go up and go get the football. You know, then you take a look at, you know, you can do 2 running back sets, pony sets, 2 running backs, Shipley, Gainwell, Saquon. Like,
I wanted to ask you about that because this running back room is deep. They're deeper than I thought. You know, watching that preseason game, and look, can we give credit to the offensive line for doing their job? Absolutely. But what I saw from guys like Will Shipley, Lou Nichols, Terry and Davis Price, I saw guys that not only were able to just consistently fall forward, saw guys that were patient, saw guys that were really reading the rush lanes. You know what I mean? Yep. Give me your perspective on, and you mentioned it, the 21 personnel, the pony sets. Give me your perspective on how dynamic this offense can be if they start utilizing those 2 running back sets, right? Maybe you see a combination with Saquon and Gainwell, or if Will Shipley continues to make strides, you may see one with Saquon and Shipley, depending on what you're trying to accomplish.
I think this has the potential to be more dynamic than 22 offensively. Straightforward. I mean, there's a couple of pieces we have to see play their way out, to be honest, Tone. I mean, we got to see if Johnny Wilson can be the real thing in season. We need to see if Paris Campbell can be that guy, if we need the veteran dude to be the guy. Right now, we don't really know much about Paris just because the time we could have been evaluating him, he's been pretty much down. But we know that during the summer, he was having a pretty good summer and a pretty good spring. I think when you add in Saquon and what Saquon can do, when you add in the different formations and the fact that teams are going to have to adjust to what this Eagles team is now, it's different. This is not the same team that they played in 21, 22, or 23 offensively. It's going to have some similarities. There's still going to be elements of RPO offense, you know, within the scheme of things. But I definitely think Kellen's going to make you pick your poison of how you want to be beat inside the red zone. You know, do you want to play Jalen in the red zone? Play Jalen in the red zone. We got dudes with good size here. We got running backs that are elusive. If you have a breakdown in coverage because you're over pursuing Jalen, you're overplaying Jalen, it's going to get bad. I honestly think there's a real shot he's going over 30 passing touchdowns. I think once they get into the red zone, I think it's going to uptick because I just think that teams are going to play the run on him. And by the time they make the adjustment to realize we're not running it as much anymore, I think he's already going to be a healthy way on his way to 30 touchdowns.
Steve, it's so funny you said that, right? Because I made my own little stat package, my own stat prediction for Jalen Hurts. And I don't really get into stat predictions. That's not something I really get into because for me, when I'm watching football, I don't really care about numbers. I care about 4 categories. I care about wins, losses, efficiency, and execution. That's about it. Yeah, and exactly. I still couldn't help myself, right, when it comes to Jalen Hurts because, I mean, this offense, you add Saquon Barkley to the fold. Then you add the Kellen Moore dynamic. I mean, this is my prediction. You know, you can read it for yourself. Let me know if this is off, if this is a bit overzealous. You know, just give me your perspective.
No, I think you're pretty close to what I would probably project. I would say, you know, being conservative in the estimates. I would say between 3,800 to 4,200 passing yards. He was already on pace for a 4,000 yard season last year before, everything kind of hit the fan.
He should have had 4,000 Gates. Like,
exactly.
He should have had 4,000 if we're being honest. They couldn't even generate more than 20
Mm-hmm.
points in those final 4 or 5 games. The offense was anemic.
Yeah.
He should have had 4,000 passing yards.
Now, I think the only thing that could hinder them in terms of the touchdown production on Jalen would be if you're inside the 5-yard line, and in particular, if you're inside the 1 or 2 yard line, might they go away? If you're not right on the goal line, you might not be doing the tush push. You might not be doing the quarterback sneak. So that might lead to a little bit more Saquon production in terms of like scoring. Sure, that could definitely play a role there. But I kind of agree with your overall point, which is what good is a 5,000 yard passer and 50 touchdowns if you're getting booted in the first round of the playoffs?
Absolutely.
That guy might have phenomenal stat numbers, but if your team overall is not healthy offensively because you're so dependent upon this one aspect, then yeah, you're done for. Like, Justin Herbert has put up big numbers for the Chargers before. He threw for 5,000 yards already in his career. He ain't won a single playoff game yet. And it's because the entirety of that team is not healthy, from literal health at the wide receiver position to just like offensively. The concepts just did not mesh together completely to throw better teams off. Defensively, they've definitely struggled there, which was weird because I thought when they got Brandon Staley there as the head coach, like what he did with the Chargers that year when they won the Super Bowl, I was like, wow, like that Chargers defense might be something. It never really manifested itself. So like, yeah, I'll take the overall health of the team, right? Having that cohesion, if you will, that both units, all 3 units, really counting special teams, playing together in unison, which is another thing, the new special teams rules. It was really weird to watch that, man.
Yeah, it was strange, to say the least. I think the Philadelphia Eagles are still figuring that out. It was moments where they gave up some pretty big gains on it. But yeah, it's something that's unique. I want to ask you, because we're on the offense. We're talking about the Kellen Moore aspect, the scheming and how dynamic this offense can be, and then how Jalen Hurts could benefit from it, right? He's been very surgical throughout training camp, and I want you to dive deep into this chemistry that could exist or that is currently brewing between Jalen Hurts and Kellen Moore, and I want you to think about that in comparison to what Emmanuel Acho said yesterday. He said something very interesting that was, in my opinion, let me just say it to you. He said Jalen Hurts is going to give you all pro production, but not all pro tape. Me, when I hear something like that, it sounds like somebody just trying to outthink the room. Give me your perspective on a take like that. What does that even mean?
Yeah, you got me in there with that one, Tone. I don't know what he's trying to say, honestly, with that. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me personally. If you have all pro production without all pro tape, then I guess you're taking a shot at the opponents. Because how are you getting that kind of production without the actual tape to that? It doesn't make sense unless you're basically saying that he's going to feast upon weaker competition. But I mean, I'm not trying to start crap, but that's more of a Dak Prescott thing, to be quite honest, where he beats up on some of these easier teams, these below 500 teams. Me personally, the guy came in with a separated SC joint in his shoulder in the playoffs in 2022. Everyone thought that we were sitting ducks. Everyone told us that the Giants were going to kick our teeth in because they were getting healthy, and we weren't. And then Jalen Hurts went out there in the first half of that game and shut everything up. He shut the whole narrative up. Everyone forgets about that. Well, he didn't throw for 300 yards. He didn't throw for 250. He didn't have to because the game was over by halftime. It was over by halftime. He completely controlled the game, by the way, through the air before then relinquishing to the run in the second half of that game. The 49ers, really bad play call I'm sorry, but that was just a bad play call. Like, you put a tight end on an all-pro defensive end and you wonder why your quarterback left the game. Like, that's the thing that gets me, is like, you didn't beat anybody on the way to the Super Bowl. I mean, we played the same 49er teams that Dallas played. The difference was we were able to take out, Brock Purdy when they couldn't.
And the legal play. It's a legal play. Simple as that.
And that's what I don't get is I heard all season long about how great that year. I heard how great Dallas's pass rush was and how we were inferior to their pass rush. Well, when the games mattered, our pass rush actually showed up in the playoffs that year. It took a really messed up field surface to really limit them, to be quite honest, in that Super Bowl. And I do think that the field condition, I don't blame it for the outcome of the game. I do blame it for, basically giving a leg up in terms of like the pass rush production. Like, it wasn't there because the surface that we were playing on, to be quite honest. I mean, I look at it and I just say, like, I think Jalen Hurts has proven himself to be a pretty dang good quarterback. Like, it's not going to be the traditional style of offense that people are going to get, right? I think you'll see a little bit more this year because I think you're going to see quicker progressions, quicker reads. I think you're going to see a little bit more layups. I think they're clearly working with Jalen Hurts on those third down pressure looks in terms of how to defeat those, how to beat those with quick, look, you got an overloaded blitz, replace the defender with the football. I think you're definitely going to see those type of things that's getting built into the offense right now. In terms of, like, is he going to have, like, Pat Mahomes level production? Probably not, just because, like, it's not even our philosophy to keep on teams like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, once we gain that, generally speaking, once we get about 14 to 17 point lead and we're in the second half of games, you can expect the run game's coming. Like, they're not going to continue to keep throwing the ball over the field. I think that hinders some of those large numbers and those large production things that you see from other quarterbacks, to be quite honest. So, I mean, like, in that perspective, like, no, I don't think he's going to be like a 5,000 yard passer per se. I don't think he's going to put up, you remember that one ridiculous year where Pat put up like 50 some touchdowns.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think you're going to see that. Now, maybe total touchdowns between rushing and throwing. I mean, you might get somewhere, if he throws mid 30s, there might be a chance there. But yeah, I mean, I think people, like, they fixate on these weird passing stats when the majority of passing touchdowns are coming from within 10 yards. Like, what's the difference, man? If the ball crosses the goal line, it's a touchdown. To me, I don't care. And I wouldn't limit what my quarterback can do, because his ability to put you in the box to defend him, that allows people to leak out there and us to be able to pick them apart like that. That allows us to get kind of fancy in terms of the personnel utilization, right? 21, those pony back sets, 12 personnel, right? And then being able to use motion, being able to use some things in terms of like 11 personnel and get the matchups that you want. Like, that's what's going to make things special, is that it's going to facilitate through Jalen Hurts' ability to get you +1 in the run game.
Right.
Because even the passing game is still going to be influenced by what we can do in the run game. Everyone knows that this team puts its hard hat on and starts wanting to play that, that tough physical game. We're really tough to beat. Like, you've got to have a really good defense to stand up to us. Like, to me, I still think that, like, 6 points or 6 points, man. Like, whether it's rushing, whether it's throwing, it's 6 points or 6 points.
I think people just they have this lens that they want to view quarterbacks through. They have this cookie cutter archetype that if it doesn't look like this, if the position isn't played this way, then this player is not elite, or this player is not good, or this player can't put up all pro tape like Emmanuel Acho's saying, right? It doesn't look all pro. What does all pro look like? What does that even mean? I'm gonna be honest with you. It just doesn't sound. It sounds biased. It sounds like they're looking for these seven-step drop back guys, and it's just like, we're in 2024. These quarterbacks are mobile. They're utilizing their weapons now. Teams are really building around their quarterbacks more than ever before because the cap is going up. They're able to spend more money on wide receivers and running backs and tight ends. The league is getting better as far as talent. Most of the talent these days, these kids are coming out of college, or actually and going into high school and going into college. They don't want to be running backs anymore. They want to be receivers. So we're seeing a complete changing of just how teams are building their offenses, and teams more than ever are trying to put pieces around their guys. So I'm trying to understand why having talent on your team or surrounding your quarterback with talent is an indictment on the quarterback. And it only seems like that narrative only has bearing on a guy like Jalen Hurts, because we don't hear that about other guys in the NFL, or even if we do, they don't hold it against them as much. Right? They always say, "Oh, that play call or that scheme, or just he maximizes those guys. He knows how to operate within that offense." That's what they say about Purdy. Oh, he knows how to operate in that. He maximizes that. He does whatever Kyle Shanahan needs from his quarterback. He's done it the best. He's better than Jimmy Garoppolo, right? Yep. And then Jalen Hurts does what he does, and it seems like the energy changes. And I'm not really understanding why we have this notion that the quarterback position can only be played one way.
Yeah, it's the old school way of thought, and people don't realize the expansion of the game and just how many teams now are running RPOs. Like, I think they would be shocked to realize the percentage of teams that are running RPOs. At this point.
They all are, Steve.
Yeah,
they all are, but they don't realize it though, because they don't know what they're looking at.
Exactly. Like, it's permeated the entire NFL at this point. Spread offense, all these concepts have kind of made their way up to the NFL, and it's just the way that the modern NFL is being played, partially because of the rules, right? I mean,
Mahomes,
a lot of the rules.
Mahomes, he won the Super Bowl this past year off RPOs. Remember, like they went on like a stretch where they were just hitting San Fran with RPOs the entire time.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, if you look to me, the plan to beat Jalen Hurts last year, and I'll give Tampa Bay credit because Tampa Bay accomplished it twice in 3 years, which was going out swinging, bringing everything you got, everyone you got, man, and hoping you can hold up in coverage, hoping he can't make that read, he can't get you there, he can't beat you that way, hoping he doesn't slip a tackle and then just take off down the field on you. Now you're chasing the back of his jersey. That was the game plan, and I think that depending on how we adjust early in the season is going to dictate how successful we're going to be. And that's where I have a lot of hope for Kellen Moore. I think that's where Kellen Moore can help Jalen out a lot. Like, hey, man, they start coming like this. You know, you start reading this, like he's going to teach them certain things like leverage and technique by the player. Like there are ways to look for simulated pressure, right? I mean, that's Vic's thing. He likes to simulate pressure, which is he'll bring them up, but he's going to drop them. You know, it's you might get a replacement blitz, meaning basically still probably a 4 or 5 man rush to where they make it look like this guy's coming, but honestly, he's going to drop out and someone you don't see is coming from the opposite direction, opposite side of the field. You're going to get stuff like that. That's simulated. But I definitely think that like Kellen can help him like read, the leverage that you're seeing from players, know when there's a real possibility that guy's coming. Like this dude's coming on a blitz. There's no doubt about it. I definitely think having answers to that stuff. And I know that some people are really hating the quick game, and I don't know if that's going to be the full structure of the offense. I mean, I went back at one point. I did make a video where I was talking about the whole 2.3, seconds to throw.
Yes.
To me, it's being a little overstated because it's not actually to throw. The read has to occur in 2.3 seconds. It's not necessarily the ball leaving your hands per se. It's very rare to get the ball out of your hands in 2.3 seconds for a variety of reasons. The number one reason is that sometimes like the window to throw the ball may not be there, right? Like you have something that is going to come open, but like a linebacker or the nickel could fall into your window and you got to wait for that player to clear the window to throw the ball. That's going to run you, even though you made the read in 2.3 seconds, the ball hasn't left your hands in 2.3 seconds. I see a lot of that stuff kind of getting reported out there. And I'm like, no, man, these are people that never played the position before. Like that's not, no, they're talking about reading it in 2.3 seconds. Like if you really go back and you look, and I used to have the numbers in front of me. I'm trying to see if I still have it, guys. But I went back and I looked at Dak Prescott. I looked at Cooper Rush. I looked at Andy Dalton. I looked at Easton Sticks. I looked at Justin Herbert. And I was just seeing how many games on average did they average the ball coming out of their hands at not even 2.3 seconds, because that's like you count that on one hand. But I'm talking about 2.5 seconds or less. And it was like maybe 25% of their games. It was somewhere in that area. Like it's not like when you're looking at it on an average, you're talking about a downtick, right? Jalen normally holds the ball around 3 seconds on average. I think you're going to see a downtick. You might see that come closer to like 2022 when it was closer to like 2.7. So I think you're going to get that 2.7 range with him. If I want to be honest to him, because I think you're going to get more of those quicker progressions, quicker reads. But I will state that just because something is getting read quickly and the ball comes out faster than normal doesn't mean there's still not vertical shots. Like it's an average, it's an average. So you're still going to get those vertical shots. I can't see Nick giving that up. I mean, Nick, the front office, that's really been their thing. That they're going to pay attention to the big play rate.
Yeah. And you got AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, and Dallas Goedert. How can you not, be tempted to, it's look, you want the problem last year was their offense was completely solely relying on the explosive play. I believe this year, what Kellen Moore is going to bring is he's going to be able to dial that back and say, look, we're leaving a lot of food on the table here by just relying on the deep ball, right? We need to utilize the middle of the field. We need to utilize the checkdowns. We need to let these multi-million-dollar skill position guys make plays in space. You feel what I'm saying? And the Kellen Moore aspect is so fascinating to me because there's another narrative out there saying that Kellen Moore, there's a narrative saying that he doesn't elevate quarterbacks, or he ruins quarterbacks to an extent, right? And it's a false narrative because, for one, Justin Herbert didn't play the full season last year, and quite frankly, their Brandon Staley football team was already dead in the water before he even got there. He just inherited a situation that was already not optimal. They had a ton of injuries at the wide receiver position and at the tight end position, offensive line as well. They were just injury riddled and they were poorly coached, and Kellen Moore just kind of inherited a pretty tough situation. And then let's be honest, Justin Herbert, as talented as he is, he's not a winning player. He doesn't close games well. It's just a reality. But then let's go to the time when
that 22 season playoff loss where they had like, what was it, a 20-some, 30
they were about 27 or 28 points, something like that, going into halftime, and then they gave it up. They gave up 30 points unanswered.
Yeah, they let Doug come back and beat them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So here's my Kellen Moore angle, right? When he was with Dallas, because people love to say, well, quarterbacks get better after Kellen Moore leaves. And my thing is, okay, for one, we don't know if Justin Herbert's going to get better. We just don't know that yet because it didn't happen. So that's false right there in and of itself. And then when it comes to Kellen Moore leaving Dallas after the 2022 season, remember that was the season where Dak Prescott got hurt. He missed like 5 games, and then when he came back off the injury, he had like 15 turnovers, more turnovers than he had in games played. That's the quarterback making the decisions he's making. But even beyond that, it seems like they're trying to rob him of the success Dak did have under Kellen Moore. The 2021 season, if you look at Dak Prescott's numbers from 2021 and compare them to his all-pro season in 2023, they're quite frankly identical. In 2021, Dak Prescott went 11-5, completed 68% of his passes, 68.8, but if you want to round up, 69% of his passes, 4,400 passing yards, 37 passing touchdowns, 10 interceptions with a 104.2 passer rating, average 278 yards a game in a year. Now, in 2023, his all-pro season went 12-5. The same record, basically. He had the same amount of completions, 410 for 2021 to 2023. He had 6 less attempts in 2023 compared to 2021. But then as far as touchdowns go, 36 passing touchdowns, 4,500 passing yards, 9 interceptions, a 105.9 passer rating. Those numbers are identical. Quite frankly, they're identical. The only difference is one season he won All-Pro, and the other season he didn't.
The truth be told is the reason that Mike McCarthy got stripped of play calling when he came in. So it originally happened to Jason Garrett, right? Where Jason wouldn't let him finish it out. And then Jason took it back and got himself fired at the end of that year. Well, the reason that happened is that they wanted someone who could help facilitate the offense from Zeke to Dak. That was the whole goal here. That's what Kellen Moore was supposed to do. He's supposed to turn Dallas's offense away from Zeke centered to being Dak centered, which he did. I mean, you go on and you see what he did in the 21 season, and statistically and all those things. Now, ultimately, Dallas can't get past that wild card to divisional round hump. They can't. They cannot get past that, man.
Yeah, that's not even a Kellen Moore issue. That's an organizational issue, in my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, they just can't. The 21st century, man, it's just eluded them for whatever reason. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say that I have all the answers to why they haven't gotten that over that hump. I don't know. Personally, I don't know, man. I don't know enough about them. I know a little bit, but I don't know enough about them to say definitively what's going on there. But there's some kind of jitters going there, man, where they can't get past that point. But I mean, the bottom line is they brought Kellen Moore in to turn Dak into kind of the centerpiece of their offense. And sometimes that's been to the detriment of Green Bay, to the detriment of Dallas. And, to some extent, I think it helped make them a more dynamic offense. If you remember how bad Dak was in 2017, he was terrible. You remember that week 17 game where he was playing, I think Nick Foles played like a series. And then it was, what's his name came out there? The old third string quarterback, the dude, can't see his name. Dude had a big arm but couldn't hit the broadside of a barn.
Oh my God. You're talking for Dallas, right?
No. He played for Philly. He came from Washington to Philly. He was a third string developmental quarterback that Doug kept hanging on to, man, forever.
Is it Nate Sudfeld?
Nate Sudfeld, yeah. Yeah, Dak barely beat Nate Sudfeld in that game, man. Like, that's how bad they were.
Yeah, that wasn't their season.
And you think about it, in 2018, they start to try to shift the offense. In 2018, they tried to shift the offense to Dak, right? And early on is struggling, and I think it became apparent to them that part of the reason they were struggling is they just didn't have that guy at the wide receiver spot. They had good players, but they didn't have that guy.
And that's where Amari Cooper came in.
Amari Cooper. And then that offense took off. It was pretty good, even in 2019, even though it faltered in Philly at the end of the year when we won the division, where Carson beat him with a bunch of freaking backup, players, a bunch of practice squad players. Like even in 19, like you could see early on in the season. I mean, like they thumped us early on in that year. Like, to be honest, they thumped us big time early on that year in 2019. Like 2020, he started off having a pretty strong year. Then he went down, I think, with the injury in 20. And then 21, they had that crazy season. But that was when they started moving away from Amari Cooper in 21, though. I still think they made the mistake. I think they moved away from Amari a year or two too soon.
Mm-hmm.
I still think that even though CeeDee Lamb is a really good football player, and he's definitely one of the top 5-6 guys in the league at that spot, I still think that you could use a guy on the outside that can beat man coverage at a higher rate than what they have. And I still think that while Amari Cooper is older, I still think he's got that ability. Right? I mean, that's the advantage we have, is that, like, while Devontae Smith can get out muscled at times, he's still pretty dang good at it. But AJ Brown is a lead at it.
Like, using that leverage, that size.
Eats up. If you put AJ in isolation in man coverage, you're getting beat. Like, you're absolutely going to get beat. I don't care who you got out there playing. You're going to get beat. It's only a matter of time. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of like the argument of willpower, right? Like, everyone has willpower until you finally give in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you think you got AJ Brown locked up until he takes you deep.
Right? AJ Brown, that dude is something different. I mean, last question about the offense, then we can transition to the defense. Just thinking about, we mentioned AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, right? Doing what they do best. You add Saquon Barkley to the mix. I have to ask you this question. Who not named Jalen Hurts will benefit the most from having Saquon Barkley on this roster?
I think you can make an argument that Kenny Gainwell might.
No one said that yet. Break that down for me. I've asked a lot of people the same question, by the way, Gates. I've asked a lot of people that exact same question, and I haven't heard Kenny Gainwell yet.
The reason I say so is, number one, it's going to take a lot of pressure off his shoulders. I think that he came in kind of being the guy last year, if you remember, in week 1, before it got switched over to DeAndre Swift. I just think that things mentally went wrong for Kenny Gainwell. And then, like, I even had people that they were trying to come at me in the comment section because I called Kenny Gainwell out, not for dropping passes, not for any of that stuff, putting the ball on the ground. That was the main problem, man. You like, when you looked at it per carry, the amount of times he was putting the football on the ground, it's incredibly high. Like that he's got to be better about that type of thing. So, like, I look at Kenny Gainwell's game, it's like, okay, the guy can catch the ball. He can route you up like a wide receiver, right? The young man does play through contact. He's, for his size, he's better at that than what I ever thought he would be. I won't say that he's great at pass pro, but he's definitely one of the better backs we have on the roster at doing it. I think that they underutilized Boston Scott, to be honest with you, the last couple of years, if I'm being real. But I think Kenny Gainwell, with Boston Scott kind of removed from the situation, is a guy that does kind of know that role pretty well. I think that's an area where it will prevent Shipley a little bit from getting on the field. Like, Shipley's got to develop more as a pass pro back. When Shipley makes that adjustment, I think Shipley, it's going to be Shipley's spot to take eventually.
It's encouraging, though, to see Will Shipley be active in pass pro in that preseason game, though. It was pretty cool to see him come up big, picking up that blitz.
Yeah, and that's because, like, when I look at Barkley and, like, what I think he could do is, like, number one, you're doing those pony senses, 21, personnel, 20 personnel, 22 personnel. It doesn't really matter, change your tight ends and your receivers as you like in terms of what you went in there. So when you're getting those 2-back sets, I think what that does for you is it just takes so much pressure off of Kenny Gainwell to where, like, every time he makes a play now, I think he's going to be looked upon more favorably. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just think it gives you the opportunity to look upon him differently this year, right? Like, when we were kind of leaning on him a little bit last year, I think everyone just kind of got a little bit, like, fed up with it. Like, nah, man, this can't be the solution at running back. This cannot be the solution here. So I think he's got the opportunity to kind of, like, let some of his natural athleticism kind of come to light here. Because it's going to be probably his final hurrah. Like, I don't think he's going to be back after this year. I mean, it's possible, but I just think that if you read the tea leaves with, the drafting of Will Shipley, who's a very similar style back, you can kind of read the tea leaves. They're moving on and they're going with Will Shipley in that role past this year. So, I mean, I definitely think Kenny Gainwell's got an opportunity to kind of, like, be a guy that can make a minimal impact. I mean, we're not talking about a guy that's going to get high volume opportunities, but I definitely think he can make, especially when you have uncertainty at the third wide receiver spot, that might prove to be wrong. You know what I'm saying? Like, Tone, that could be wrong, but right now we perceive it to be like a little uncertainty there at that third wide receiver spot. So, I mean, with that, you got opportunities for guys like, Grant Calcaterra, Kenny Gainwell, Will Shipley. I think those dudes have an opportunity, to kind of, like, get a little bit more distribution here. we already know who the 1, 2, 3, 4 is going to be. You know, the 4 cornerstones, if you will, of what the offense will be. I mean, that's AJ Brown, that's Devontae Smith, that's going to be Dallas Goedert, and that's going to be Saquon Barkley.
Right.
You know, I think once you get past that, like, I think you start splitting hairs between like the third wide receiver versus the second tight end versus the second running back. I think you start splitting hairs a little bit.
Right. And then you got to throw in the +1 factor, right? The fact that Jalen Hurts can run the football. So, like, when you really go down the pecking order, wide receiver 3 really falls into what? Option 6, option 7, maybe, depending if you have 21 personnel out there. So, yeah, man, you're onto something. You're onto something.
That's why I look at it as like I think ideally they want a third wide receiver who can stretch the field for spacing purposes. So they want that John Ross, they want that, you know, Paris Campbell type that can stretch the field for you. The problem is that I really love John Ross's like story. I loved his interview. I thought that man grew and matured a lot. I was rooting for that dude to show it. Same. I don't know that he did, to be honest, Tone. It hurts me to say that because the football guy in me wants that dude to make this team.
Same.
I want that victory, that, you know what I'm saying, that the little like, yo, the little guy got it, man. You know, here's one for the little
stories
guy.
About the stories about his son and how his son's in training camp and how he always has a conversation with his son about what's going on. And he clearly did a lot of self-evaluation, right? A lot of soul searching, and you know, he just really hasn't been able to really show that speed consistently and, you know, in real reps, and he hasn't really been able to get the separation.
Yeah, I mean, there's still time. I mean, he could still potentially turn it around, but like right now, I feel like he's probably not on the roster, if I'm being honest. But there's still time to reverse that image of things. I will say, like, you know, where you're looking at the third wide receiver to space you, you know, vertically, create vertical spacing, you can take a look at it and say, like, well, you know, the second running back or your third running back, depending if you're looking at Shipley, Gainwell, that way, they can space you horizontally. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's all about spacing on the field and what you can create and what you can do. Like, I definitely think that's part of it, is finding a way of spacing you and then being able to hopefully take advantage of the middle. One thing I did think that was pretty encouraging, Tone, I don't know if you realize it, but man, they were definitely targeting and trying to work Calcaterra over the middle of the field.
Yes, they were.
So I mean, I was like, oh, okay, like that's pretty encouraging. Like, I thought that was something that was kind of missing from the offense last year.
He just got to stay healthy. That's his problem, because I like him as a receiver.
And Albert O, man, like I'm just disappointed, man. I see the athleticism. Same thing with the other young man. What's his name? Jenkins, the guy we picked up.
EJ Jenkins. Yeah, it's kind of giving me Tyree Jackson vibes. It's just like you see it, but it's like it's just not coming together.
If you didn't get that guy to the practice squad, I would keep on EJ Jenkins. I think there's something there. That's a 6'6", like 260-pound tight end. Those are, you know what I'm saying? Like I'd keep that there, man, because that's a dude I think that's got some. If you can develop him, I think he's got some ability to not only be kind of an F movement tight end, but I think he can also kind of play inline as a Y. And I think that's, you know, he's got the size to do it. I don't know if he's got the technique down yet, but he's got the size to be able to play that type of role. Because, you know, the other guy that's going to probably be, I don't know, man. I just, you know, it just feels like for some weird reason, Eagles have him locked into the roster to me is, what's his name? The young man used to play for the Bengals, you know, played for the Jets last year. He's not young anymore. He's not young anymore, by the way.
CJ Uzomah.
Yeah, like it seems like they have him locked in as that wide tight end role, but I just don't know that he gives you a whole lot, man.
He doesn't. He hasn't had a good training camp at all. He hasn't caught anything. He's quite literally a offensive lineman in tight end's clothing. You know, it's really that's all it is for him.
I hope they take a chance there, man. Like, take a chance on a younger guy. Like, I think Albert O hasn't done enough yet but you know, they gave up an asset to go get him. So I could see if they held him on the roster just for potential. But outside, you know, like EJ Jenkins would be a good guy. Like, you know, is that third tight end kind of role, guy that you can work into the block and roll. Like, I hope they take a little bit of a chance there.
How do you feel about speaking of taking a chance? How do you feel about that guy, Kevin Fulch? They picked him up. I forget who he played for previously, but he got waived. I think he's a rookie or a young guy.
I think someone in the comments might have been for the Commanders.
Yeah, Kevin Fulch. He made a pretty cool play, caught the one-handed pass, you know, bobbled a little bit and brought it in their preseason game. I mean, what's your thoughts about him?
I don't have a lot of tape to really evaluate with him, to be honest. You know what I mean? Like, I have to go back and look at his college tape to give like an honest evaluation there. Mm-hmm. I definitely think the Eagles have a type they're looking for, a tight end, though. They love the athletically gifted type of guys, man. They just do. They love those athletes at tight end. And, you know, just the amount of guys that they've tried to like train there and tried to turn into tight ends. And they've definitely, had their fair share of these guys where they've tried to make it work there like that. I was actually kind of shocked when they came out and directly stated that Johnny Wilson is not going to be converted into a tight end. Because I was like, it does seem like something they would try to do.
I mean, yeah, can you really blame him? The dude 6'6", like 230, 240. I mean, he's athletic. Still needs to work on that concentration with catching the football, but his blocking ability, I believe he was the #1 ranked blocker in college football.
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely some guys out there I think that could get the job done.
Mm-hmm.
Let me try to think here, guys, in terms of like defensively. So making that transition, that term, what I saw defensively. I'm going to be honest with you, Tone. I still have concerns about their ability to stop the run with a 4-man front. This is an overread, guys. Don't look at this play and think that this translates to the season yet. Going back to earlier comments where I said about be a little weary about effort in the preseason, but I'm going to break down the play.
That first play? Are you talking about that first play?
Exactly. Yep. This is after our 4-and-out kind of series we had. It wasn't really 4-and-out, but we didn't convert on the 4th down. They got the ball back and they hit us with that big run, and they ran it off of power. We called it sink back in the day. So sink just means like towards the right side of the defense, left side of the offense, the left guard, and I believe it was the left tackle, came in and kind of blocked out and moved out Jordan Davis.
Yep, sealed them off, yeah.
Yeah, and then they brought a pulling right guard around on what we call like a power sink. The first time I watched it, man, I came away with the wrong standpoint. And if some of you guys saw my tweets, let me just state this, guys. It wasn't Avonte Maddox's fault. It wasn't. The first time I looked at it, I thought Avonte was definitely at fault, but it's not when I saw the 22 on it.
Yeah, me and LB spoke about that. We thought it was Avonte Maddox.
Yeah, no, it wasn't. It wasn't though. So it was one of the Rip Liz type assignments where he's coming into like at cover 9. I think it was cover 9 because I think Avonte was on the weak side, so it was a weak side rotation down into the box. So I think it was technically cover 9. Cover 3 is always going to be strong side rotation. So they bring Maddox down into the box, and then you got a 40 from the linebacker. 40 just meaning that he's on the inside shoulder of the tackle, so he's between tackle and guard. So you got a 40 there, which was Devin White. Then you got a 10. 10 means that he's lined up like we're inside of the center, basically. Okay. So he's on the would have been if you're looking at the offensive line, it would have been the left side, right side defensive.
And you're referring to the technique, right? The 1 tech, the 4 tech
that they're playing, yeah. So you have a 10 technique at the linebacker spot, so that's off of the nose, right? Then you got a 40 technique. Okay, so then you had basically a 5 technique, a 2-eye, which happened to the 2-eye actually on that play was Jalen Carter. And then you had a 3 technique, which is actually Jordan Davis, which is the first thing that threw me off. It was like, oh, Jordan Davis is playing a 3 technique. They got, Jalen Carter in there as the 2-eye. Like, he's basically playing the nose. Like, that's interesting. Like, good little wrinkle. Like
2-eye being inside shoulder of the guard.
You got it. Inside shoulder of the guard. Yep. 3 techniques outside shoulder of the opposite guard.
Right.
And then they had an overhang. Okay. So, you get the counterplay, which is coming power. And so now you got to know who your lever, your spill, and your lever is essentially in the defense, guys. So your spill guys are trying to force them out to the levers to be tackled, basically. So what I saw there was Maddox. At first, you see Maddox's feet stop. Like he looks like he's in concrete, right? And the reason that's happening is Maddox still has coverage responsibility. So he's watching that receiver. You can, if you go look at the 22 guys. So if you go into NFL Game Pass and you go to the plus and you go to the 22, you'll see he's looking directly at the actual receiver. And as soon as that receiver takes a second step, Avonte goes in. He shoots the gap. Now, the reason I thought there was Avonte was he missed a tackle back there. But I think it was just the angle. I think him and Baun got caught up in a weird angle. Baun came in and filled. So Baun came in was your fill player. So Baun met the pulling guard and did a pretty good job actually there. Baun did. But then Baun missed, another guy kind of missed the opportunity for the tackle in the back area. They were bringing over, essentially, they're kind of moving over. He's flowing with the defense. He's flowing with the offense, see what's going on. Devin White's kind of standing there, and you see Devin White kind of get depleted a little bit. What ends up happening is that on the opposite side where that guard and center are, they work up to the second level, and they kind of deplete him. And now you got the A gap open with that 40 who's supposed to move over and cover that gap. It's open, and there's that huge run. That's a hard one to say who's at fault for. My gut instinct is that I have to put that on the big guy, Jordan Davis. Jordan Davis getting removed out of that play is what caused everyone else to be outside of their gaps, in my opinion. You could look at Devin White and say, Devin White, man, you should have reacted a little faster and not got depleted there. But it's like he's playing gap. Like there are responsibilities in terms of the run fit. He's playing his run fit responsibility, and he's got to stay there because he's a leader on this. So like that's the issue there. That's one where it's like, okay, here we go again with a 4-man front again, and we're struggling to stop the run from a 4-man front. And then you noticed immediately Vic went into a 52. He immediately after that play goes into 52. They get caught in the flats. Good play design against a 52, by the way. Make you cover all the field. Really, really beautiful play design there. And then they shut it down. Then you get Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis seem to start taking it seriously, and everything gets shut down. And then they're kicking the field goal because they barely moved the ball an inch after that.
There was a clear distinction between those those first 2 plays and then the rest of that football game.
Yeah, exactly. So that's, you saw Vic kind of fall into the 52. The reason I bring this up is Vic, while he's known. So look, guys, a 50 front is really just, it's the origins of where the 30 front comes from. The 34 defense comes out of the 50 front, honestly. If you go back into the 50s, you can learn about kind of the development of the 50 front. And actually the 50 front really started out as the 60, those old 60 fronts. But nonetheless, what ends up happening is when you go look at Vic he plays the 50 front on first downs, goal line situations, stuff like that, right? But he doesn't play 50 fronts as much as his predecessors do. All those guys that came after him, they play way more 50 front than he does. But you can see that he immediately resorted to it. And I'm wondering if that's going to be a reality with the Eagles. Because I don't know that we're, I haven't seen it yet. I haven't seen us be able to stop the run out of a 40 front yet, 4-down lineman. And to be real with you, the way they were overhanging, it's really a 30. It's really a 30 front with an overhang, to be honest. Because the role that they had there, and I think that was, I'm pretty confident that was Nolan Smith. He was playing like a jack linebacker role on that. I don't know, man. I don't know that we can do it, Tone. I have not seen that yet. I've not seen our ability to do that yet. Now, I don't want to read too much into a preseason game because the problem with reading into a preseason game is that, like, I can't tell you that Jordan Davis was 100%, into the game. Right? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like, I mean, I don't know if I buy into that. You know what I'm saying? But I mean, he lost that rep. He definitely lost that rep.
Flat out, yeah.
They got him. They got him on that rep. Now the rest of the day, it didn't quite go that way. Like I thought our guys did pretty dang good, to be honest about it. I thought Moro Jama really showed up. I thought Moro Jama played pretty good. Booker was okay. Booker, I think, showed a little bit of ability. I thought Jalen Hunt showed a lot of athleticism, man. I still think he's a little undisciplined. I worry about Jalen Hunt being in the right spot when it comes to run fits. Like, I definitely think he's got a tendency to get fooled by the eye candy sometimes. But you see the raw athleticism in this young man, to where they do not fear putting him out there like he's going to cover the hook. Like, they'll put him out there like he's going to play, like he's playing nickel, playing hook. And they have no problem doing that with Jalen Hunt. It's going to be interesting to see how they utilize some of these younger pieces. Because despite what we do this year, Tone, past this season, we're going to have a very different looking front, right? So where you're going to have, Jalen Carter, you're going to have Jordan Davis, you're going to have, Moro Jamo, and then what? Defensive line, then what? I mean, maybe we get something worked out with Milton Williams getting back here. That would be preferable. Marlon Tuipulotu's probably not coming back unless he hits the market and there's just nothing there for him. Then maybe he comes back later in free agency. I mean, that's a possibility. But you know what I'm saying? Like, we have a lot of uncertainty past this year in terms of, like,
the defensive line, yeah.
Yeah, like what's going to happen there?
Because Nolan Smith, let's be honest, we still don't know what he is yet. Although I am optimistic about the defense, I do believe the defense will get better as the season goes, as they establish an identity and what they're really trying to accomplish. But it still doesn't come without its own question marks. Like every team has their own version of question marks. But as far as the Philadelphia Eagles are concerned, Nolan Smith, first round pick. What is he going to be able to give you, right? How reliable can he be in the run game? Can he get a sack without coming off untouched? It seems like most of his sacks tend to occur when he comes off the line untouched, and I need to see him beat somebody cleanly. I think it was a 9-man fit too on that first running play, which is the 9-man spacing. So I mean that's the 9-man spacing. You got a man for every gap, so that's really disappointing. like we should. You're not even supposed to, like, really and honestly, anything over 2 yards is a serious loss when you're 9-man spacing. Like, that's meant to get, to be a tackle for a loss, really, is what you're hoping for there. If the Eagles can't stop it, because you don't want to be in a 50 front all game. You don't want that.
No, not at all.
But if they can't figure out this 4-man front, because even to me, it seemed like the 4-man front doesn't just struggle a little bit in defending the run. They also seem to struggle with getting to the passer consistently.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, break that down for me. Just how concerning that 4-man front could be.
I think there's a lot of unknown, and I think that's the scary part. Like, there's a possibility that it's going to be really good. There's a possibility it's going to be really bad, and it's going to take a lot of design blitz to get pressure.
And that window's too wide, right? How good it can be versus how bad it can get. It's
exactly.
It's not.
There's a ton of instability to make the prediction, essentially. You know, I see some things from Nolan Smith. I hear some great things from Lane Johnson, talking about like how Nolan is developing more of the pass rush toolbox and all those, things you want to hear. You want to hear those better guys.
Matter of fact, I think
I haven't seen it on the field yet.
He said that on the Green Light podcast with Chris Long. He mentioned how he's rushing with a plan now.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, I just want to see it. I just want to see it.
Apparently Bryce Huff showed up in a big way at the joint practices with the Patriots, but the Patriots aren't a very good offensive line.
Right.
So I don't know how much to take of that, right? I know that Jalen Carter is going to be really good. Like, I have no doubt about that. Like, I think that Milton Williams can have an impact on your pass rush. Like, I definitely think that, right? It's going to be like, what can you do from like it's not just Josh Sweat. It's not just Bryce Huff. It's not just Nolan Smith, but like, what does an aging Brandon Graham give you? What does a really, really, really young and inexperienced Jalen Hunt give you? Like, you know what I mean? Like, and then what goes on in the back end of that roster, that last spot? I really had high hopes early on. I just, I thought that the way that they had structured their offseason and the way they had put resources into the edge position, I thought we were going to see somebody that was on one of these futures contracts really show up and play. But unfortunately, we had one guy get injured that was on a futures contract. So he hasn't really been able to produce anything for us at this point in time. So that kind of took us out of being able to get anything from him, right? Teron Jackson, I think, is just not I don't know that he's the greatest fit here anymore. I used to really like Teron Jackson. I think he gives you something in the run game. I don't know that he's the greatest fit as an edge rusher in this system, to be quite honest. But the guy I had hopes for was Julian Okwara. He's got the size.
The guy from the Lions, yeah.
Yes, he's got the size that Vic looks for. He's very Jalen Hunt-like in the size department, right? He's got that type of size to him, right? 6'3", 6'4", 250-ish, kind of freakishly. He got injured, and that's why his testing numbers are a little skewed when you go look at his college stuff. But if you go back and you remember what he did I believe it was at Notre Dame, this was an athletically gifted guy. He was on, I think, Bruce Feldman's freak list pretty much every year. Like, this guy was really, really good. He was a really athletically, freaky kind of player. But then he suffered a lot of injuries, and that started taking its toll. So I was like, look, he's been a couple of years removed from those injuries. Things didn't work out in Detroit for him, and now he's coming to a fresh place to where I think that he fits the body type that, Vic Fangio is looking for. I'm like, he might catch on as that last edge rusher, but the person I'm hearing is the guy that I don't think is a great fit, but seems to be developing, which is Patrick Johnson.
Yeah, Patrick Johnson had a pretty good preseason game. I mean, he saved the game. It was pretty cool seeing him, take a step forward.
Yeah. Terrell Lewis is who I was thinking of, guys. I see some of the comments. Yeah.
Terrell Lewis.
Yeah, Antonio. Terrell Lewis is who I was thinking of when I was saying the guy injured. I think Terrell Lewis ended up getting injured. I think he had a concussion or something, didn't he? Or it was that Brandon Smith or Terrell Lewis. One of them got concussed.
I know Brandon Smith had a concussion. I know that.
Yeah. But yeah, it just like I saw those futures contracts rolling out. I'm like, I like what they're trying to do here in terms of getting that bottom end depth. But it's like, man, they seem to be kind of missing on them. And it looks like Patrick Johnson's the guy kind of potentially winning that. I'm like, I was hoping Julian Okwara could get a little bit more involved there. And I haven't heard a whole lot, man. I don't know about you, but I haven't heard a whole lot about Julian Okwara.
No, it's been really quiet for him, right? Real quick, I want to get to the super chats real quick before we continue. Alohi DC, he says, I'm not worried. Better coverage equals better rush. I actually think that's the opposite. But Alohi, I really do appreciate you for donating to the channel. What's your thoughts on that, Gates?
I mean, yeah, there's definitely an element of it to where, like, one hand washes the other, certainly. Mm-hmm. You definitely can force coverage sacks. There's no doubt about it. But I think the area you run into where you get in a little trouble if you're depending upon your coverage to generate pressure is when you play better quarterbacks. I think that's where you give enough quarterback enough time to throw the ball. Like
he's gonna find somebody.
Yeah, he's gonna find somebody open.
All right. And then my man Davon Tyree, he has an offensive question. Shout out to him for donating $4.99 to the show. Really appreciate you, Davon. He says, "Hey, Gates and Tone, how come Howie won't pull the trigger with Hunter Renfrow? He's a baller in the slot."
I don't know. I mean, I don't know that I have the answer to it, Davon. But I will say that I don't know if they're considering the age as the aspect to that, or if he's a guy that maybe they wait till they get closer till after final cutdowns and they reassess their roster, then maybe they make a decision like that to bring in a veteran dude like that. Some of these veterans don't want to go into a camp. That could be part of it, to be quite honest. He might be like, "Yo, Howie, call me when camp's done, then we can talk."
Right. That's kind of what it sounds like with the whole Justin Simmons thing. Last one on the defensive line, then I want to talk to you about these linebackers, right? Specifically Jeremiah Trotter and those guys. We speak about Jordan Davis so much and how his conditioning is everything, and we see the talent, we see the athleticism, we see the size, and we say to ourselves, okay, what's not connecting here, right? Speak on, or better yet, how vital is Jordan Davis to the overall success of this defense?
Vital. Like super vital, sir. He's the key to the run game.
Vital as in if he doesn't do his job, the whole defense collapses.
We will be in trouble from a run game perspective in particular if Jordan Davis does not. Like that's what his billing supposed to be, right? Like his billing is this dude is a bona fide A++ run defender. Like this guy he may not have the poppy flashy numbers in the run game, but he's going to make everybody around him better because he's going to draw the attention. If that's not happening and he's getting removed from gap assignments, that's going to be quite the issue in the run game. From a pass rush perspective with Jordan Davis, it's always been like, look, shows a lot of athletic traits that are intriguing that if we can teach him could develop into something down the road. You would like to see him show a little bit more this season, but I still don't think he has to be that dominant guy this year. You know what I mean? Like, I still think he has time to develop into that type of player, but I definitely think, you want to see him in rotation as a pass rusher. Like, Milton Williams and those guys might get the majority of the snaps in pass rush, true third down pass rush situations. But you'd like to see Jordan Davis chipping in here and there.
Okay.
Getting some plays is the way I would look at it.
Got it. And then the linebackers, right? The linebacker position has gotten more interesting now that Jeremiah Trotter and Nakobe Dean have started to make some plays here and there. I wasn't very optimistic about Nakobe Dean. I still have my reservations, but he's doing everything he can to string together some sort of positive play. And then Jeremiah Trotter Jr., I mean, I'm in love with this kid. I'm in love with him. I mean, the dude just makes plays on special teams. One play that stood out to me in that preseason game, and I'm really looking forward to see what he does tonight. But one play that stood out to me in that Ravens game was it was 3rd and 2. And I believe the quarterback was Josh Johnson, right? That mobile quarterback for the Ravens, really fast dude. He had a gap that he could have ran for the first down. It was wide open, and if typically that's a first down in most situations. Jeremiah Trotter Jr. was able to scrape off of was he in contact with a tackle or a guard? I can't remember exactly who it was, but he was in contact with the offensive lineman and was able to scrape off. And I thought it was just a tackle short, but they actually credited him with a sack with that. Just give me your perspective on how good Jeremiah Trotter could potentially be, what you've seen as far as the instincts, and then just give me your perspective on the overall linebacker room as a whole.
I think Trotter is very instinctive. I think that's what you're saying here. He's really instinctive and like he's educated. He's educated about the way the game's played. He's not like, to me, he's a guy that you can depend upon to be in his responsibility. And that's a testament to his father. And it's got to be nice when Jeremiah Trotter is your father. Like that's a pretty good person to counsel you on
X-Man Jr.
Exactly. Like, I mean, the guy's receiving, world-class coaching since, he was yay big, you know what I mean? So, I mean, clearly that helps. Like, you could see this dude for a rookie is like ahead of where most guys are as rookies. There's a little TJ Edwards to his ability. I don't mean size-wise, like completely different players physically, but like the way that TJ Edwards kind of, when lights came on, TJ's really started showing up. And I even remember his rookie season in Buffalo, where he had a couple really important run stuffs in that game. Like, I look at, Jeremiah Trotter Jr., and I think the same thing. I don't think he's going to initially be the guy that makes the push for a starting job. I know the way these coaches think, man, and it's really hard for those young guys, especially at linebacker in particular, to gain those roles. However, I do think he's a guy that if he keeps playing at a high level, you're going to see that playing time keeps upticking. And then all of a sudden you might turn around and go, is Trotter starting? I think it's one of those situations like you kind of have to kind of watch out for. Now, I mean, to be fair, someone has to give him the opportunity in 24 to do it. And there's a lot of dudes that can prevent that from happening. So it's going to be on them on whether or not they allow this young man to come in and take the job. Like, they got to live up to the expectations. Like, I think Zack Baun has done a respectable job for what his experience level is, but I don't know that I consider him to be a lock, to be quite honest. I almost feel like he's a placeholder for Nakobe Dean right now, to be honest. It just feels like they wanted Nakobe to be forced into earning it. And like slowly but surely, Nakobe seems to be taking it. Now, we'll see how long that lasts.
It's funny you say that because yesterday at the joint practice, or 2 days ago at the joint practice, that was the first time Nakobe all offseason, through OTAs, through mandatory, through training camp, the first time they gave him the first team reps ahead of Zack Baun. He started the day with the first time. So I don't know. I think since that open practice day, it seems like Nakobe Dean, it seems like the light's starting to come on from Nakobe Dean a little bit. Again, I'm curbing my expectations with that. But he has some plays in that preseason game.
Yeah. My gut instinct is that they might try to rotate a 3-man rotation at linebacker. Now, I don't think that's going to be true of Devin White if he's wearing the green dot of play calling. Like he's going to be out there. However, it does seem like they have a preference in passing, pass coverages versus run, kind of those run fits, if you will. I think they like Nakobe in the run fits. I think they like Zack Baun more in the pass, in that passing game stuff, being able to drop back, get into the right spots. We'll see how that works out. And then I think they got a really young athletic group of dudes, to be honest. Even Devin White's not that old. Athletically gifted as crap. You know what I mean? Zack Baun's not that old, still fairly good athlete. Still curious why they didn't really give him some run. Like, as unstable as we are at edge, I was kind of expecting Zack Baun to get a little play there, man.
Same here. The Saints, because I did a deep dive on Zack Baun. I read articles, from the Saints, from the Saints media group. Just trying to learn more about this guy. And I mean, the way they used him out there, because he typically was a perennial special teamer. But this past season in 2023, those final 5 or 6 games, I think they had some injuries at linebacker, and he was next man up, and he was able to really make some plays. In the pass rush, he got sacks, forced fumbles, pass deflections, an interception or two. I mean, he was stuffing his stat sheet, in his own little way. In the little time that he was on the field, and I figured that they would use him a lot in various pass rush or blitzing situations.
That's what's kind of shocking me, is like I thought he would definitely get more run like that, and I get that. I mean, even when people look at Van Ginkel really got that role mostly because of injury. Injury kind of facilitated him to start playing down as an edge player in Miami. But with that said, like Zack Baun has the background in college of doing it. So like it's kind of like surprising to me they kind of kept him at off ball instead of putting him on ball a little bit more, to be quite honest. So I'm wondering if we get in season, if the pass rush is just a little off, if they don't start playing Baun a little bit more as an edge rusher, potentially, in a rotation. That one I could kind of see a little bit happening there.
Could that be why they haven't outsourced for another edge yet, despite the uncertainty at the position? Could that be why they haven't outsourced quite yet? They're looking at it from the perspective of we have kind of have a 2-for-1 with Zack Baun?
Possibly in the fact that like I don't like the money at edge is so freaking expensive. You know what I mean? Like it costs cash for edge rushers, unfortunately. I mean, you look at the contract that the young man got, Bryce Huff here. I mean, pretty damn good price. That's pretty good number for him, to be quite honest. You look at what Hassan got a few years ago, and Hassan was much more, he had a couple of years of production like that before he got to Philly, and he only got, now you could make the argument that this guy's slightly younger, Bryce Huff's slightly younger than Hassan when Hassan got here, but still, I mean, he got paid. He got paid pretty well for that season. I think it depends, man. I think we kind of have to wait back and see how roster cutbacks go. And then see how he does, because teams are going to want to move guys. Teams are going to want, you know what I'm saying? Like some guys are going to get opened up on that cut down day. So I think once we see that, and we'll kind of see that fine, like, looking at, will they take an opportunity to try to upgrade at edge? Will they take an opportunity to potentially upgrade at linebacker? What will they do at safety? I think safety is another one where you can maybe question some things. I don't know what to do with James Bradberry because everything I'm hearing is actually Bradberry's playing really good at safety. But here's the problem: if he's not a starter and he's not a special teams player, I mean, how many snaps are we talking about? Like,
right.
I mean,
Like, are you going to use him in? Are you going
nickel here and there? Like, what? Are you talking about?
Are you going to use him in big nickel or are you going to use him in dime sets? Like, what's the plan here?
Yeah, that's why I don't get personally telling him like I don't know how he fits per se. Like, I don't get the fit right now. Like,
do you think they believe he can beat our Reed?
Huh?
Do you think they believe he can beat our Reed Blankenship?
I doubt it. I just think Reed, even though Reed is still younger, Reed has been a safety basically his entire life. Right. You know what I mean? Like, there's a reason why Reed was able to come in here and take a job away, pretty early on. Reed stepped in his rookie year and played pretty dang good. And even last year, I think last year he got exposed for some of the lack of athleticism, in particular lateral movement ability.
Definitely.
He got caught a little bit on crossing routes and stuff like that. You could see that there's a limitation there. But I still think he overall, like if you were to weigh out all the safeties in the league, he's in the mid-tier. He's in the mid-tier of guys out there.
Okay.
So I think he's a respectable guy out there. Like, I don't think he's as athletically gifted as Marcus Epps was, but I do think that he's better at reading things than Epps was, to be quite honest. I think Epps was underrated athletically, to be quite honest. I think a lot of people didn't realize how gifted he was as an athlete.
Very physical player.
Yeah, he was. Yep. This is a new role, though, to be fair to Reed. Reed's, he's primarily played free. He hasn't really played on the strong side. Now, you can make the argument that Vic doesn't really recognize free versus strong, but, he's still going to probably most of the time be matched up on the tight ends and stuff like that.
Can you break down the key difference between free and strong safety?
Sure. Essentially, your free safeties are going to play in space. Those are the guys that are normally going to play the most in space. Even when you're playing split coverage, so you got too high, but it's a split coverage. So normally speaking, your free safety is going to end up on the half side, right? Where you're covering half of the back end of the field. So where on the other side, you got your quarters guy. That's normally where your strong is going to be. It's going to be towards that quarter side of it. Now, there's a lot of communication on the quarters compared to the half side. So there's some communication has to occur there because, you have to look at the fact that, when you look at a football field, I don't know if I don't have a Sharpie here. I have a board, but I don't have a Sharpie here. So when you look at your underneath coverages, right, you got your flats, and then from your flats, you got your curl. From your curl, you got your hook, and then you're moving back out from the other side to the hook, to your curl, to your flats, right? So you got those 6 spaces you're basically covering underneath, right?
Right.
And then you're allocating how many players you're going to use to cover the flat, or, the under coverage area, not the flats, but the under coverage area, right? So in, cover 2, you got 5 guys. 5 guys are basically playing underneath. Mm-hmm. So you got 5 guys covering 6 spots. It makes it really hard to throw the ball underneath because you only got 1 player who's essentially probably playing something like hook to curl or curl to flats. Like, you know what I mean? Like normally that's kind of like what you're looking at there. And then you're splitting up your back end by the percentage of field that they're playing. So quarters, 25% of the field, cover 3 is in thirds. So 33% of the field. And then, cover 2 is halves. So 50%, 50%.
Right.
So it's a spacing thing, if you will. Generally speaking, your strong safety is going to be a guy that normally has some kind of coverage abilities, a guy that normally could probably play down as a nickel if you really needed him to. I think C.J. Gardner-Johnson's just a good example of a guy who could probably play all of them. I think he could play free. I think he could play in strong. I think he could play down in nickel if you needed him to. Avante, kind of. I think Avante does better in space, though, where you can let him, I was kind of shocked because one of the reportings I heard today is that Avante has lost some of the twitch that he once had, which that's disappointing because Avante, I think people underestimate how good of a nickel corner Avante was for a few years.
He was very good.
And if he lost that twitch, then I fear for him. I fear that safety might be a permanent move for him.
He's already small, and exactly. you lose that twitch, and that could it be apprehension because of the injuries? Or
I don't know. Yeah, exactly.
But regardless,
yeah, it's not good. It's not good when you're losing. You're losing that type of thing. But when you're playing the strong side or you're playing the quarter side in particular, guys, there's just a ton of communication has to occur. So, on the quarter side, you have essentially you got your outside corner, you got your nickel corner, you got your safety. So if you got to know if you're in a 2x2 stack, are you on a 3x1 stack? Are you empty? So 3x2, basically how are you passing off each coverage responsibility? There's some cues that have to do with the running back. So like there, if you have a corner, so say your corner's playing up in a press technique, he looks and he sees like, oh crap, like they're going to run like what they call like a speed 3, right? So they're going to run the out to the flats with the running back, right? And I need to pick that up. Well, that corner's got to be able to signal that he's covering the flats, which then is going to pass off a coverage responsibility to cover anything that, like if the number 1 comes across the field, that means the nickel's got to carry him, which is now carrying everything back half, is now going to be put on the shoulders of that strong safety. So there's a lot of like coverage things that have to be known in terms of the communication of those things.
A ton of responsibilities, essentially.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Knowing your inside outside leverage and like, how you're guarding basically curl to hook to curl to flats, those kind of things. If you're covering multiple areas because you're not allocating as many people underneath. If you're in a cover 4, you're allocating more people back than you are, underneath.
Right.
So the underneath guys have to cover a lot more ground, which is why sometimes our linebackers and stuff get picked apart. I honestly think they're better in coverage than people think. I think their coverage assignments are harder than people realize.
Oh, interesting. They're better than what the people think, but the assignments themselves, that's where the difficulty comes in, and that's probably where we see the mistakes happening.
Exactly. It's not a fair assignment anytime you got CeeDee Lamb or that type of player matched up on a linebacker. Like come on. I'm supposed to cover this dude in space.
Exactly. No, I feel
we're back in quarters coverage. I got all this area underneath. I got to cover this dude. So, also, I got to make sure that he doesn't threaten. I got to make sure that I kick him out of the seam, because if he threatens the seam, I might be the seam guy. So like, what I mean? Like there's just a lot that goes on there. So I think we put a lot on our linebackers sometimes.
Okay. So you bring in Vic Fangio now. Do we expect that trend to adjust itself? I mean, we've had guys in the past, like you're saying, put a lot of stress on the linebackers, right? And it's not that they're bad, it's just that they're putting them in compromising situations. How can we remedy that under Vic Fangio? Do you anticipate him having a remedy for that? What does that look like?
That's an excellent question, Tone. I do anticipate it's going to be better underneath Vic, just because I think Vic's been in the league for so long. I do think that he's going to coach the things correctly. And I think that the messaging is what's going to get through. I don't think Sean Desai is as bad as people think, to be quite honest, Tone. I don't. I think he had limitations, right? I don't think he was a great game planner, but I think he adjusted well. I think he did really well in the adjustments.
That's one thing I think that's one thing the fans even noticed, right? We would start games off one way, and then you'll see this shift from halftime. You saw it in that Rams game in particular.
Exactly. Like people think highly of Sean Desai for a reason. Like he was awarded the job here. Right, he got picked up immediately by Pete Carroll as a special assistant there, essentially like an extra set of eyes on the defense. And then, of course, he was the defensive coordinator for the Bears for a period of time after Vic. After that Vic regime all kind of left out. The thing is I don't think that his words had the same weight that Vic has. You get what I'm saying? Like I think that he kind of got caught up in the Bill Belichick and the Bill Parcells struggles, where all they're under people, like all their downline always struggled to find a way of getting their words to hit home, because like you have to be the authoritarian, but you also have to be caring. You got to care about your people. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, and it may not be that he doesn't, like that could be he could really care about his guys, his players, but it may not be conveyed the best way. I'm not in the locker room. I can't really speak to exactly what happened with Sean Desai, but I do know that just given the optics of what happened there, I mean, this wasn't because of the scheme. This wasn't because of performance. This was because they thought he lost the locker room. Clearly.
Wow.
I mean, that's clearly what went on behind closed doors. They made a mistake, in my opinion. Jonathan Gannon almost lost the locker room too at one point. You remember that?
Yes, I remember Fletcher Cox at the press conference. I remember that, and then he said, "Well, I shouldn't be." He basically was saying like, "There's no reason why I should be dropped back in coverage," something like that. And then all of a sudden, we saw this shift, and he bought in.
Yeah. See, and that's the thing. It's like it's really hard. It's like Bill Parcells. He was hard on his guys, but he also had the love of his guys. Bill Belichick, hard on his guys. He also had those caring moments of like being almost like a fatherly figure to some of those guys. You look at like a Vic Fangio, been around since the 80s, well respected by those guys. I don't know if he's like a father figure to these dudes. I think it's a little different today's relationship with players, but definitely respected by these guys, and his voice has impact. I don't know that Sean Desai did. I think he definitely drew up some things that were really creative. Like when you would watch the 22, like, oh man, like he's kind of cooking a little bit here. Like I like schematically what he's trying to do, but I don't think that he got the buy-in. And you hear some of the reporters like, yo, this is some of the same stuff that Sean Desai was doing last year, and he was saying, but like for whatever reason, the players are accepting the message from Vic, but not from Desai. I don't know how the messaging came across, Tone. You know what I mean? Like something was wrong with the messaging. Clearly, I don't know how it was portrayed to the players. I'm not in a locker room. You know what I mean? Like I used to have sources. I don't have them anymore that are that close. After like my first year doing this, like I definitely had some people inside the building, but after 2020, like everyone kind of, that all kind of got changed up a little bit.
Right. New regime.
Yeah, I really don't have anybody in there anymore.
Not feeling on that.
But I mean, something happened there. And I wouldn't be shocked if Sean Desai doesn't find his feet somewhere else. And we're like kind of looking at it like, why does this always happen to us? Like we get these guys, these young, innovative, talented dudes, and then they don't work for us. We kick them out the door, and then they freaking flourish somewhere else. Like I'm thinking the dude that coaches the Bills. Remember he went to the Panthers.
McDermott, right?
McDermott, yeah, Sean McDermott. Remember he took over, the Jim Johnson era where he took over for Jim Johnson, and I mean we hated that dude for the year he was here. We didn't give him an opportunity to grow, and the dude grew into a heck of a defensive coordinator for the Panthers.
Absolutely. I got a couple more questions for you, Gates, and then I'm gonna let you go, my friend. You've given me so much game, so many jewels throughout the show, man. And I can't thank you enough for it. I want to ask you a question about the DB room. The competition is obviously heating up between guys like Kelee, Ringo, Isaiah Rodgers. It seems like the Philadelphia Eagles are kind of like dead set with starting Quinyon Mitchell in the slot for right now. Just give me your overall thoughts on the cornerback 2 power rankings. Who's leading the race in your eyes? How have you been evaluating guys like Ringo, Rodgers, and Quinyon Mitchell?
Dude, that is a tough one, man. That is a good battle. That is a really good battle. I think the Eagles are leaning right now in this moment. I think they're leaning towards Isaiah Rodgers. And I'm just saying that because of the way that they played it last week. And then the total snap count tells you a little bit too. The fact that,
of course,
but they gave an extended look to Kelee Ringo and he answered. Now that makes things kind of confusing, right? He got down in the red zone. My man got in there and broke that pass up. He was like, not happening. Not over on this side. We're throw to the opposite side. Because then you ain't getting it over here.
He was sticky in cover. He's been sticky all training camp, man. Especially that preseason game showed me a lot. And and for me, it was the little things, right? It was the little details, right? Yeah. He not only was mirroring the receiver, right when that ball was getting close, turn his head, make the play. Just the little things. And
Keelan's got the size. That's the thing. Is like to me, like okay, there's differences in the boundary versus the field corners. Yes. I think Isaiah Rodgers is a field corner. Shifty, elusive, good hips, fast, can jump on the ball on you. Give him a little bit of space to play in and bait you, and then he jumps on the ball on you, and he's gone. I definitely think he's more of the Slay type, right? The problem is I think that's what Quinyon is too. And he ain't gonna beat Quinyon out next year. I can tell you that right now. Once Quinyon finally gets that spot, it's over. I can tell you that right now. But I think Kelee is a little bit more of a boundary corner, right? Get his hands on you, redirect you a little bit, play closer in contested spaces. He's not the smoothest in transition. Keelee's not. That's not his game. It's not his game at all. He's a little tight-hipped. He's fast. Straight line, he's fast. Super fast in a straight line. He's physical. Dude's like 6'1", 6'2", damn near 210 pounds. That's a big corner, man.
With that speed, man.
That's a big corner.
That's why it was so important for him to start to figure it out. Because if he can figure it out, he can be a legitimate problem for any receiver you put on him because of the physical traits he has. He has the speed to keep up with speed guys. Has the physicality to keep up with guys of the DK Metcalf build. You know what I mean?
And I think the thing that's going to be interesting is like you have these different ways of playing these split coverages, okay? And I'll go over some of the calls that they have, okay? And everyone's a little different. So you have the Nick Saban version of what they call essentially stub, okay? So when you play like a stub or stump, actually, it's stubby and stump. So he plays stump. When you play stump is man. That's when you're up on guys. You're being physical. You're redirecting, right? You still have those same coverage, principles, okay? The coverage calls are very similar, all those things, right? So you have that stump coverage, right? Man coverage. We're not trying to play these zone match concepts because I don't trust my guys to do that. I got athletes, though. I got athletes I can run with you. You know what I mean? I can make it hard on you. So you have that stump kind of thing. Then you have what they call stubby. So stubby is like Jeremy Pruitt. Jeremy Pruitt ran a lot of stubby. Stubby is interesting because stubby is like essentially what ends up happening is normally when you see stubby, you got off coverage. Okay. So you're going to play off a little bit, but oftentimes what you'll get is like the Zimmer effect. Mike Zimmer used to do this to where he'll bring one guy down on the boundary and he'll put him up. It's not necessarily, it's a man concept, but it's not always press. Sometimes it's bail. Sometimes it's mirror. You know what I mean? It's not always a jam, but he's up in a man concept on you. And then the other side, the field side, you got your guy kind of creeping back and falling out. Right. And you'll notice when the way you can tell if someone's going to play a bail concept, guys, is as they back out, they angle. You'll notice that they start angling, and that's for a purpose. They either want you to be squeezed inside or they want you to dare to try to turn and run outside with them because they're just going to basically push you out of bounds. They're going to basically shorten up that sideline so you can't make a catch. So like, you see the differences in stump and stubby, and you can kind of see like what they're doing here. I'm curious what Vic does. I know Vic comes from this mixed coverage stuff. He comes from this Dom Capers style of defense. All the stuff we saw in Pittsburgh in the 90s. It's essentially like minus some of the aggressive blitz packages. It's not really his style. He does a ton of simulated pressure. You're going to see a lot of simulated pressure from Vic, but a lot of simulated, a lot of replacement blitzes, a lot of what they call the call them not leakers, but creepers. Creepers where the edges kind of creep out into the flats. You'll see those type of things with Vic. The coverage, though, is going to be interesting because Vic wants to trap you and he wants you to turn the ball over. And that's going to be the beauty in it, is seeing how they play these different leverages, how they play the calls, Tone, because he's going to want to trap you. He's going to want to play some different concepts to get you. I would really watch for the production on the weak side safety.
Okay.
Because they do some things to try to force you into passing off coverage, and Vic will allow his, and it's probably going to be CJ Gardner-Johnson playing that role. He will allow them to jump those routes. So when you start coming across the field and you start trying to run those, those deep crossers and those type of things, he'll play what's called a tricks concept. He's going to play that tricks concept on you. And I think CJ Gardner-Johnson is going to have a ton of production because of that.
Man, that's good to hear. That's good to hear. The Cooper DeJean element is interesting as well, right? He's obviously been hurt, but he comes back. I'm curious to know, where do you think he fits in with this defense as it's presently constructed? Again, Quinyon Mitchell, since the DeJean injury, they've played him in the slot more. And then Ringo and Isaiah Rodgers, they're outside corners. They're not inside guys at all. So where does Cooper DeJean fit in, right? He seems like a hybrid type player to me. He can play the nickel. He can play outside. He can do a few different things. Where does he fit in for you?
I said Mike was all over me for this because he thinks that I called the draft. I didn't call the damn draft. I don't work for Howie Roseman.
Shout out to Mike, man. Shout out to Mike. I'm actually trying to get Mike on tomorrow. So shout out to Mike.
Yeah, I didn't call the draft. But he was like, yo, how did you know? He's like, yo, because he's like, you pointed out you covered 4 corners, and 2 of the corners you covered, we drafted. I was like, it's about watching the tape and just seeing what guys I thought fit the scheme. And the one thing I said about both guys, Quinyon Mitchell and, I said about, basically Cooper DeJean is they have zone eyes. These are zone eyes in coverage. They read route concepts very well. They know how to pass off coverage. To me, it was no shock that those dudes produced as soon as they got in. I was not shocked by that revelation at all, that those dudes came in and immediately started showing you. Now, I do think that he could potentially contribute as a safety. You could see him there. They could play he's such a versatile piece. I think they're going to probably play him as a nickel once he gets back. It might take time. And then I wonder what they do with Quinyon. There's a million and one ways that could go down in terms of Quinyon. Quinyon could get bounced out to playing opposite of Slay. If something happens with Slay or if Slay drops off because of age. I don't anticipate that, man. I don't want to start that thing, guys, because I actually think Slay's a really good player. I don't love the way he responds sometimes on his podcast because I think he gets too defensive. Yeah. And I think it paints him in a light that's not truly who he is. You know what I mean? Like,
because everything you hear about Slay, everything you hear about is
Yeah.
like the players like love him. He's a team guy. You know,
Yeah,
he's always teaching, always trying to give guys information.
exactly.
And then you know
Slay's been working with these young dudes since day one.
Since day one. And then these guys get in their podcast, and sometimes they just can't help themselves. But it's almost like a natural instinct to defend yourself when you have your own podcast. You know.
Yeah, and that's the thing is like, you know, it's one of those things where it's like, man, I wish he would wait until he got out of the league to kind of talk about some of the things he talks about. Just because I think that I understand most of the time what he's trying to say. And I get he's just trying to defend himself, but it's like, it doesn't look good when you're trying to defend yourself. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just not a good look. Like you don't need to do that. Like, man, those who break down tape will show it. Just relax. Like, relax, man. Like, you're going to get people who are going to be directly ticked off with you after a game. It's just, that's just the company you keep, man. Like, welcome to being an NFL player. You know what I mean? Like, that's the company you keep, bro. People, especially in this city, we're going to critique you and then feel bad 24 to 48 hours later.
Exactly. Because, you know, like everybody's a film junkie in Philadelphia. The moment they look at the film, they'll be like, oh, that wasn't Slay's fault. So just give us
eventually the truth will come out. Like, you know, let us work, bro. Let us do our work for you, man. Let us have your back. We got
absolutely. Absolutely, my man.
Yeah. That's the thing is like, you know, I just wish he would just chill a little bit on those type of things. Like let us do our job here. We got you. Like, we understand what was going down in the breakdowns of communication in the secondary last year. It wasn't hard to see that. I think even the average fan may not have understood the calls, but can be like, yeah, I don't know crap about coverage, Steve, but this doesn't seem right. Like, the way this dude should be just running down the field.
Exactly.
Like, yeah, they definitely didn't switch off the coverage there. Even in the Super Bowl, we saw that happen in the Super Bowl, by the way, where they didn't communicate well. You remember Andy Reid figured it out, and Andy started putting dudes in motion to start messing around with the communication. And then Slay's passing off the coverage. No one hears what Slay's saying, and then they walk into the end zone on him.
Yo, it was Slay was like, yo, get over there.
He was trying to signal,
and dude's
like no one picked it up. Yeah,
it was
it's
rough.
like, you know, it's unfortunate, but that's like, everyone asked me like, what do you think about Vic? Love Vic, huge Vic Fangio fan. Hate that man's scheme. I hate that man's scheme with a passion. I do.
A lot of people hate it.
Like it. I like Vic.
My man John McMullen, he hates it.
Exactly. Yeah, I can't. I don't like that scheme either at all. I just think it depends upon entirely too much communication. Like, sometimes when you got athletes, just let your athletes be athletes. Like, you know what I mean? Like, now you could argue like Steve, like, you know, there's some levers that got to be pulled here on both sides. You know, sometimes you got to let your guys be athletes. Sometimes you got to try to confuse the quarterback. Like, there's levers you got to pull. I agree. But I just think Vic pushes that one lever way too far. And I think if you don't communicate properly, you get what happens in the second half of the Super Bowl. You get what happens during large stretches of the season last year defensively, to where we weren't passing off coverages correctly. That's the problem I have with that scheme, is like, not anyone can play in Vic's scheme. Wow. You can't. Not anyone can play in that scheme. You got to be really particular about it. Yeah, and it's, you know, it sucks, but it is what it is, Tone. Like,
I mean, that's probably why you hear. That's probably why you hear Miami. That's probably why you hear Miami guys crying about Vic Fangio and all that kind of stuff. But I mean, it's kind of hard for me to put stock into Miami guys. They're soft out there. You know, they got beaches and all that. You know what I mean? Like, you know, the sunshine, and you know, they're soft out there. I mean, but when you're in Philly, you're playing that cold.
I don't think that they like that. Vic's the type of old school coach where he'll throw your ass under the bus.
Like, yo, we've already seen it.
Yeah,
the way he talked about Nakobe Dean earlier, and man, he is
he'll put your ass he'll literally put your ass under the tire, bro.
but it's kind of refreshing to hear someone who's a little bit more emboldened, like a Vic Fangio. Final question for you, my man. Again, I really appreciate your time. You give me so much more than I can ask for. Tonight, the Eagles face off against the Patriots on the road. Give me some guys that you're going to be paying close attention to tonight. What are you going to be looking for, especially on the defensive side of the ball?
I started this conversation. I'll talk about Moro Jamo. I'm gonna go back there again, man. I want to see that dude produce, man. Listen, Moro will always have a spot for me because the dude gave me my highest viewed video ever. So, because I think it was like back in 23 after that draft, I was like, man, I was feeling it, sir. I was feeling that draft pick, man. I put out the video saying that this was the steal of the 2023 NFL draft, bro. That stuff it exploded. I did not anticipate some random 7th round draft pick getting me like damn near 70,000 views on a video.
Jeez.
Yeah, I didn't see that one coming, bro, at all. But I like the drama, man. I like his game. I like his game, man. I love his story. I last season I did that video where I broke down the basically what I called it was the Southeast Pacific, kind of pathway to the NFL. But there's also a West African pathway to the NFL too. And Moro Damo is part of that. Quite a few guys that are actually part of that. Ndamukong Suh, quite a few of those guys are part of that pathway. Sometimes you hear it referred to as a Nigerian pathway to the NFL, or you'll hear it called as the West African pathway to the NFL. Just like they call the other, sometimes they call Southeast Pacific pathway, or they'll call it the Polynesian. But, it's one of these pathways. You got one out there in Australia. There's a few of them. There's a few of these pathways that are kind of forming into the NFL. I got to tell you, man, Moro Ojomo's that guy for me, dude. I just think that there's something there. I think there's something that can make him that third piece later on as we kind of, 2025, 2020. I think he can be that dude. He's not going to beat out. Come on, Jalen Carter's on a different level.
Right. Of course not. Right.
You know what I mean? He's not going to beat out a guy like, even Jordan Davis. Like Jordan Davis has a very defined role. Now, what I will say is some other guys, I want to see Nakobe Dean, man. I need the momentum from Nakobe Dean because, man, I don't want to get you demonetized. I put my
listen. You put your ass on the line. You put your ass on the line for that man. We all did. We all did.
Yeah,
that's why we're so passionate about that player.
Yeah, I put it out there for this dude, man. Like, you better come on, man. Like, you owe us something here, bro. Give us all you got. That's all I'm asking for, bro. Like, if they fall short because of a lack of talent, that's one thing. But it dang sure can't be because of a lack of effort. We got to see everything, Nakobe. You got to leave everything on these fields, bro. You got to leave everything on these fields because this is a critical year for him. They banked on this man being part of this defense, Nakobe, right? Nolan Smith. Hey, bro, you want to know if the pass rush is going to be good? Is Nolan Smith going to be good? That's a big part of it. Nolan he's got to step up. He's got to play a big role for us, man. They banked on a lot of these young guys, right? We got Quinyon out there. Of course, Cooper can't really do much yet. But Kelee, Ringo, you know what I mean? Reed. Reed had an overall pretty good year last year. But he got exposed a little bit. Reed, where's that bounce back, bro? Show us you still got something. Because, right now, I'd say that the fan base, there's I won't say the majority, but I'd say 35, 40% of the fan base, they're a little concerned about Reed. I'm not going to say they're down on him. I'm going to say they're concerned that the lack of athleticism could make him nothing more than a third safety in the league.
Agreed. And that's what a lot of people say.
Safety, a quality third safety, but a third safety nonetheless. I think there's a group of people that are kind of fearful that might be his trajectory. I don't know if that's true or not. We'll see. You know what I mean? You give the guy a chance to play again. But I'll say he got exposed on those crossing routes last year. We had to single up on, in cover one and cover that. He lost ground. No doubt about it. He got taken a little bit. The young dudes, man. To me, it's all these young guys. The defense has definitely turned the page, and there's a youth movement going on. And we got to definitely see if that happens, man. We got to see if that holds up and if that does anything.
Hey, listen, you got to do something different. I mean, we've leaned on veteran guys for the past 2 or 3 years on defense, right? And it's time for the youth movement. You got to let these young guys play at some point, and now is the time. It makes me think about that Chiefs defense. Before they became what they are now, they were young, green, and you had guys just slowly starting to get it. Then about time they got to that Super Bowl with the Eagles, they were a well-oiled machine. And then in 2023, they were a top 5 defense in the league. So you got to lean in with these young guys. You got to let them get their lumps.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But that's what I'm looking for in particular.
Okay, sounds good to me. Gates, man, I really do appreciate the time, my guy. You've given us so much quality sports talk, so much nuance. So much details, to reference back. I'm going to use this video a lot, just as far as just going back for my own reference, because you gave me so much to really think about, and I'm just so grateful for your time, my man. Is there anything that you want to promote, anything that you want to mention before you get out of here, my guy?
Gate City Sports, guys. We're coming back. I know it's been a little while. I know some of you guys in the chat, I recognize you guys. I know some of you are probably like, yo, Gate, when are you going to put another video out? We're going to do some live streams, guys. I'll work on videos. It's tough right now. I got the child. I got the baby. And like right now, I got to get ready to get her hooked up and get ready to be fed at 3:00. So she takes up time, sir. She takes up time.
Hey, man, I feel that. Well, actually, no, I don't actually feel that. I don't have any kids of my own quite yet. But I respect the game, my friend. And congratulations once again to you and your lovely lady and your family, my friend. Once again, man, open invitation here. I can't wait to bring you back on to talk more football, especially once we get closer to the season. I definitely gotta set up some sort of a round table with you, LB, some other guys, man. I love your perspective. And look, man, it's gonna be a hell of a season. It's gonna be exciting regardless. And take care, my man. Can't wait to talk to you again.
All right, Tone. I appreciate you, buddy.
All right, man. Talk soon. That was a good one, you guys. That was a good one. Shout out to my man, Gate City Sports, Steve Heitter. You guys know he brings a ton of nuance, a ton of intellect to the football game, a ton of experience. I think, as a matter of fact, he coached football, if I'm not mistaken. He was a quarterback's coach, and Steve is just a good dude. Just a good dude. Gives you your time. And I reached out to him, and he got back to me immediately and said, "Yeah, Tone, I got you. Just tell me the day and the time." So shout out to him, and shout out to you guys, right, for being dope listeners. It's been really, really dope. It's been really, really dope, you guys. But we're going to get out of here. Make sure you guys smash that like button. Make sure you guys are subscribed to the show. It means a lot to me. As I said, tomorrow we're going to be doing giveaways. Tomorrow is going to be a big day for giveaways. And I want you guys to make sure you're locked in with that, right? And thank you again to people who donated to the channel. I know it was a little difficult getting to all your super chats. You know, I try to maintain a pretty cohesive show to try to really give you guys a good product here. And if I couldn't get to your question, I really do apologize. Just know I'm super grateful for your investment. And my man Benjamin Moore donated. He said, "Great team between Gates and Tone, QB1 MVP. Your thoughts?" And I probably should have asked Gates about that. I completely forgot. But just based on what he said about Jalen Hurts, he definitely feels like Jalen Hurts is going to have a career year all the way around, right? Right, B Moore. He feels like Jalen Hurts is going to really benefit from having Kellen Moore. He's really going to be able to utilize these weapons. He's already saying Jalen Hurts should have a 30 touchdown plus season, a 4,000 yards plus season. So I think Jalen Hurts should be able to compete for an MVP award. I don't think there's no reason why he shouldn't be in the running for that. And then also shout out to Davon Tyree with the $4.99 donation. I know we did get to this about the Hunter Renfrow thing. Maybe they're waiting until training camp comes to a conclusion. You never know. But Davon, thank you so much. Thank you so much for your donation, my friend. And then Aloha DC, thank you so much for donating to the channel. And you know, the bottom line is that pass rush has to do their job. The coverage guys got to do their job as well. Each hand has to watch the other. So thank you guys so much for donating to the channel. Make sure you guys continue to stay locked in on the content. You guys know how we do it here. We're going to be live tomorrow. Don't know the exact time, but I am working on a pretty special guest for tomorrow. So just make sure you guys lock in. And tonight's game day. It's game day, man, and it's going to be really exciting. I'm not sure yet if I'm going to do a pregame show. I might. It all depends on what I'm able to do. It all depends on how much time I can squeeze out. But I definitely wanted to make sure I gave you guys a lot of content today, some good content today regarding your Philadelphia Eagles and just as they stand. And I wanted to bring in somebody that brings a lot of insight, and it's really smart when it comes to when it comes to the game of football. Like I said, Steve, I believe, used to coach football. He's a former quarterback coach, if I'm not mistaken. I think he played as well. So shout out to Steve. Shout out to Gate City Sports. Make sure you guys go check that out. And it's straight like that, man. You guys are tremendous. Also, make sure you guys go check out the Chalk It Up merch shop. The links are available in the description. The links are in the live chat as well. Make sure you bless yourself before the season comes to an end. Make sure you bless yourself before the season even starts, as a matter of fact, right? You want to make sure you got that swag on. You want to make sure you got on that, got them threads on that make you look good for the regular season. So I appreciate you guys for locking in. The links are available below. The shirt does come in 2 colorways. It comes in black, which is the one I have on now. And then it also comes in a color called eucalyptus, otherwise known as tan to some people, depending on your your color vision. So make sure you guys go check that out. And we've already had a bunch of sales thus far. Make sure you guys go lock in with that. And I'm just so grateful for your support. It means a lot to me. Again, make sure you guys smash that like button. Make sure you guys are subscribed to the show, especially my newcomers. Make sure you guys stay locked in, keep commenting, keep engaging. Make sure you guys stay humble, stay healthy, and most importantly, stay hungry. I'm your guy, Tone DeShields II. I want to give another shout out to my man, Gate City Sports, Steve Heitter, for bringing so much insight to the Chalk It Up Sports platform. And you guys were locked in. on Chalk It Up Sports, where no matter if we win or if we lose, we just got to charge it to the gang.